Here we are. What up, everybody? Welcome. We're back. We're always back. Here we are. All right. We got Matty in the house. We're still talking World Cup.
Yeah.
We're having a great time. We're having a little behind-the-scenes conversation about World Cup, talking about what we should and shouldn't release. Sprinkle. Got a sprinkle. Also,
rumors?
Yeah, there's rumors. You never even texted me back today.
Oh, dick.
Yeah.
With what?
The juice, bro.
What's the juice?
We're gonna have to. We don't.
We gotta wait. We can't drop it. We can't drop it yet.
We can. I don't think it's not official juice, but it's there's potential juice.
I didn't get a message from you.
I don't think there's any actual official anything yet.
Hopefully you didn't send that
juicy
to someone else, because the only message I have from you today is.
What up, baby Jay?
Dog. I said it, and then you sent me a picture of Scott and Sloppy fighting. So maybe you haven't seen it.
Oh.
Yeah, have you talked to somebody today? ABJ in the house? I mean, I'll bet.
I have some info
we'll
on
have
that, but not from that.
Not from that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, we got lots of stuff
on the phone with that.
And I believe the dust is not settled from World Cup, and obviously we're gearing up for a very exciting off season. I know that. Revo's looking for guys. I know that Impact
They're going to change your coach too.
Revo's
changing their coach.
Yeah, I did read the article, and I believe he quit in the magazine.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I still don't have my. Yeah, you have the magazine. We've got Heat is for sure. There's going to be a shakeup there.
Kind of got to be.
There's got to be. Right? There's got to be.
Been a couple of years since they've won. They're incredibly consistent. We can get into all the teams and have
Impact. Yeah. Well, Impact is out there. Who knows what happens to Dynasty? We usually figure it out, scramble like the last month before the event, because someone gets taken right then. Like Bart loves to do that shit. Bart will take a guy from us, like in February, and we're like, "No, dog.
Why couldn't you do that the week after?
Why didn't you just do it right after Cup, or call us or let us know? Like, hey, what the, I think one time he's like, "Hey, Merry Christmas, Alex. How's everything going?" It was like the week of Christmas. He's like, "Yeah, crazy season. Hey, we're gonna grab Dalton." And he's like, "What the fuck?"
And it's not like you can go back and be like, Dalton, what is he paying you? Oh, all right, well, we're going to give you $5,000 more. Like, that's not an option.
Nah. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think we're rock solid still, in my opinion. I say that every year.
You guys looked really good at Cup.
We did.
Until the loss. You looked good until you did it.
And isn't that how it always is?
I know.
I look great,
but the
until
number,
I don't.
Whatever.
Yeah, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it.
Were good.
Just a little
preface.
preface.
Just didn't have the didn't part.
Yeah.
Even
better.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. We can get into it. Numbers look pretty good.
Yeah, and actually, I would love to see anybody who thinks that there's some rumors, or you guys are thinking about X, Y, and Z, or you thought you heard something, or where you think potential players may move to. I'd love to hear that and see that.
I also heard about that thing that you said with the group.
Oh, it's a group. No, I know. That's why I said you talked to one guy, because the other guys aren't on your squad. But we're gonna get into that. I'm dropping that today.
Group.
Yeah. And then
juicy.
It's just, dude. I hit the juicy thing already.
I was like, do you have like?
We've got it right here.
I was like,
juicy.
have you some, okay, yeah.
And
there
then
we go.
you can listen to it on here.
Does it got like a little sound?
Juicy.
Juice it up.
Dan Shelley says, heard Leverage might want to sell their spot already.
Get off.
Hey, this shit looks hard, man.
New York Extreme got relegated and didn't win a game at Cup. Holy shit.
Finished 22nd place.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I think they've just edged out Spider Fusion.
There was actually like a big tie at the bottom.
Okay.
But let me, the sad thing about the situation for NYX, and I love those guys, so I don't rub this in. This is just, the numbers are what they are. Scalp, because of double points at Cup, actually finished higher in the overall rankings for the year than New York Extreme did.
Ooh. Say that again.
Scalp, because
the Scalp team.
Yes, Scalp, because they made it into the top 8, so they got 242 points overall, and NYX finished the year with 121.
But nothing to I saw that, but nothing to take away from Scalp. They didn't finish. Then they got kind of placed.
Scalp. Well, no, that's taking something away from Scalp. Look, Scalp's amazing. They won the European Championships. They did not win a game at Cup. They lost all other seeding games, and then they lost to Diesel by 1. It was a close match.
Yeah, it was.
But they finished -10, 7 points for, 17 against. But even though they didn't win a game at Cup, because they got that bye in the top 8, they get 242. and ended up taking 20th overall for the year.
And it's not like that's the first time that a team that has gone had that first round bye in the like in the champions bracket went 0-4, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know?
He did last year.
He did last year. So I mean, and dude, I'll tell you what, because this is our first time playing out of the other bracket. Man, that other bracket is nerve wracking. Shit is so hard. And then on top of all that, you've got to play to win 4 matches the next day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, and you guys were in the bracket of death.
And the bracket of death.
About. I was nervous for you guys. I'm not even playing. I'm just. We're doing the bumping everything up, and I'm sitting there, and people are asking me, before the event actually happened, talking to other paintball people, right? They're like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Bro, this is gonna get up. My nerves are shot, and I'm not even playing in this one, so I can only imagine how nervous these dudes are."
It's funny, like whenever we're playing against a team that we have like had history with or like have struggled before against, like the Tauntauns, for example, right? We're up like by 4 points against the Tauntauns with like 7 minutes left. I'm like, they're gonna come back. They're gonna come back. We're gonna have to beat them in overtime. There's gonna be a 1-point game. Like I was like, how are they not? Like they're capable of it. They obviously didn't have a great event, but man, I was like, all right, we're up by 5. Like I know it's about to be a mercy with 4 minutes left. I still don't think I have enough breathing room. Like it's not over yet, Kevin. Like.
Everyone's.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's guys out there in the chat. Everyone's kind of been there, right? Like you're beating the living dog shit out of a team. Like it's bad. Like you're putting up tons of points, but you're scoring those points fast, right? And nothing's going bad for you at all. But you're looking up and you're like, oh man, score looks really good. And then, but there's still 12 minutes on the clock, and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, I hope the wheels don't fall off this bus right now. And then sure enough, the wheels start to fall off. And the next thing you know, you're only up by 1 with and it's a game, and they got the momentum, and you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, like. Which is why when we cut to the pit sometimes, and one team will be up 4-0 on another team, but there's 10 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
And the team that's up by 4 points is just at each other's throats in the pits, and somebody that has never been there before is like, why are they screaming at each other? They're up 4. They're beating the shit out of this other team.
That's how it was when in our aftershock match too. It was like 4-0, 5-0. There was still like 10 minutes left on the clock, and I was like, it's scary. So
yeah, I mean, it gives me the sad thing for me, at least from my perspective, when I'm watching that happen, is like, well, Team A is beating the living shit out of Team B. The story is exactly the same through 5 points. However, there is 11 minutes still on the clock.
Yeah,
so stick with us.
Stick with us.
Someone here said Rainy, Mouse, and Tyler are going to Impact.
Yeah. That's what my juicy Impact news was. I don't think it's signed yet, but I believe that's.
I've heard some of those names, and also another very big name.
I hear this every year.
Included in that group.
I hear this every year.
Another big name. 4 big names. What?
I've heard.
We hear this every year.
I've heard 2 of those 3 people, and then another person. Very big name.
So 3 other names or 4 names total?
4 names total.
Okay, anyway.
Those 3 names plus it.
Before we get into the silly season discussion, which of course is part of the reason we're here and part of the reason everyone is tuning in, we've been around for so long that until I actually see like contract signed or a dude in a jersey or a guy at a practice, who knows, because it gets a little wild.
That's why we preface a lot of it, and we need to bring it back because it's usually end of the season kind of stuff, is allegedly.
Mm-hmm. Allegedly. Don't you guys have an allegedly
We
shirt?
have an allegedly shirt, which is great.
Buy the shirt on SPICKNSPAN.com.
Yeah, we don't have it yet, but we had it before. We haven't remade it. That's basically.
This is like the best time for that, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So, but yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Including that.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. Marcelo could be the 4th guy. That's you never know.
Well, what do you want? How do you guys want to?
No, look.
person.
This is just people who are going in there.
Oh yeah, no, because dude, there's so much.
Dude, we haven't even thanked the sponsors. So I want to actually, first of all, let's thank everybody who is watching the show, who shares this, who tunes in every week. You guys are the backbone of this endeavor, of this content creation masterpiece. As you guys, so I think someone said it was a masterpiece.
There was no technical difficulties today, so
there haven't been in a while here, Matt. Knock on wood.
Well, it's normally when both of you are present, everything works smoothly. It's when you're in Ojai or you're somewhere.
Well, no, he does a really good job of running this show solo. It's when I have to try to. I don't know. Look, we're cooking, man. We got Wi-Fi little mesh thing set up.
Everything looks great.
We're cooking, man. We're cooking. We're looking good. I hope you guys can hear us. All that stuff is great. And then everybody who's a supporter of the show, we got some cool giveaways that we're throwing out every single month. thanking and provided by a lot of our sponsors down here. Gen X and Arfon have been supporting the show for a long time. We, obviously makes the best pods in the game, but also they're doing those the pods with the Ecologic additive in there that makes the plastic biodegrade or compostable. It's one of the two. But anyway, it helps it breaks down in landfills. Actually, Mike Zupa from Impact, who is like the lead guy at this place and goes around and make sure that people go green. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. I always really appreciate that. And it's really cool to see Arfon doing that, and he does it all in the U.S. So big shout out to the Gen X guys and always supporting the show, making sure you guys are getting pod caddies, the whole 9 yards. Also, Junior Gina from BFPGear.com. He sponsors the question of the show as well as he sponsors Dynasty, and he's our assistant coach. He does a lot of stuff, man. And we're actually going to have him on the show next week, and he's going to drop some tidbits about the Black Friday sale that he has at his stores and all that other stuff. He's Black Friday Paintball. I showed it to Kyle. It's pretty insane. I'm not going to share it yet, but like, you think we give a lot of stuff away?
No, they do. Well, and people that run really good fields and stores are the lifeblood of this industry. Obviously, I would say they're the organs of the industry. The players are the blood, but the players need places to shop, places to play, places to get info, and I think they're also having tryouts for their D4 5 excessive too. I saw him post something about that, so I want to give a shout out to.
It's also great to see. Okay, so let's take a guy like Junior. Perfect example. Like from Europe, like loved paintball, wanted to be professional paintball, moved out here, played with excessive, did all that, like went through all the like the paintball dream, and then to like even just elevate or build on that paintball dream, gets a field and a store, runs the online shop, runs a pro team, or like ran the semi-pro team, and then runs a divisional program, and like that's just rad.
They're crucial. I mean, and if you're out there and thinking that's something you could be interested in, because it's also one of those things where it's like people that do that have to have their shit together. You know? So it's like if you are advancing in years and you still want to be involved in the sport and you want to start a team, that's why I love talking to all these guys that have, because again, not to transition the conversation, we got to hype the sponsors up, but it's a lot, but there's a lot of those people, I mean, when you go around and meet all the guys that run the semi-pro teams and these like what just happened with Fit, I mean, it's just there's just a lot of those people are invaluable. Like, what's the return on investment of those people? Like, you can't even calculate it. I mean, it's really important to give credit where credit's due.
100%. And then speaking of people who are supporting paintball players, we've got Pate Smith also.
Yeah, Pate Smith.
Big fan of paintball, went in there, became successful, opened up a shop. It's an interesting way to say it. Open up his own shop. A firm where he's doing the great part of law, of legal, where he's helping to represent people in insurance claims. If your home or your property gets destroyed by Mother Nature or some sort of when you need to do an insurance claim, he helps manage those, negotiate and litigate the insurance claims. Also reviews files for free. So if you're like, I actually just talked to somebody about it. I'm like, hey, look, you should hit up Pate because there was a flood. Oh, David Weathers, his whole house flooded, and he's got insurance. But they're like, oh, sorry, we're only gonna give you like a couple grand, because that's how it is, right? They just don't want to pay you.
Well, everyone needs someone on your side, right? Lawyers kind of get a bad rap. I grew up next to a lawyer, and he was one of the good guys, so it's like, obviously he did really well for himself, but there's a reason why the good one, like you can do well for yourself, that you get to choose, like, do you want to work with the light side or the dark side? And if they choose the light side, and that's one of these things,
right.
And it's like, and he's giving back to the sport he loves and doing God's work out there, trying to get people paid on these, if you pay your insurance for 15 years and all of a sudden Mother Nature decides to destroy your house and all of a sudden your insurance company doesn't want to pay, it's fucking horrible. All of this, it's like you need somebody.
Well, it's super intimidating.
You need someone on your side.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then also, he's made some cool little shirt gear, and then on top of that, he sponsors Move of the Event, which we're going to announce the move of the prelims today.
Yeah.
So someone's getting paid what, $500?
$500.
$500, dude. Which is literally more than you make split between the team when you win first place at a pro event. Yeah. You're right at the $500 mark, which is insane. Insane.
I was like, what do we get for third? He goes 40,000.
Pat on the back.
I think 10,000 for a second, and then 4,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I just said the same thing.
40's
I'm like,
pretty decent.
I'm like,
40's, yeah.
40's great.
Yeah.
40's great, but the disparity between all those after
40,
like, playing
10.
the entire season, and you're like,
Might as well give fourth like 100, like $75. Just throw it in there.
Cash money too.
Yeah.
Just pay it out. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I distinctly
Do 20s or
remember
10 and
talking to.
Just throw them $100.
Just give us some petty cash.
Yeah,
like, let's
just-
get the shirt sales for the event. You know what I mean?
We're gonna buy you guys a Chick-fil-A.
No, I distinctly remember when I thought Tom, and I talked to him. He's like, I think we were just talking about that spitballing, but like, I thought it was like you get paid through 8th place. Like, if you make the top 4, you're in the money. Because I remember the first time that they did the champions, if you won an event, you automatically got a buy into the. It didn't matter about series points. You automatically got a buy into the top 4, right, or the automatic top 8, right?
Yeah.
And at which point they were deducting $4,000 from the prize money. So it went from $12,000 to $8,000 because all that extra money is going to the thing. And I'm like, oh, cool. So you get the extra money by just making the top 8. That's what I thought it was.
That makes sense.
And so we talked about it, and then
Some
I was like, wait, so
logic
does
there.
everybody else make money? They're like, nah. Like, ouch. So we won an event, $8,000. We got a nice haircut, a $4,000 haircut, and then you gotta try to
won
win
the wrong event, bro.
You won the wrong event. That's
Right.
sorry.
Mopped up on the last few World Cups.
We did.
Been cleaning house for 4 years
Yeah,
on the World
yeah.
Cup.
Yeah, so I want everybody to have the experience of cashing
Totally
checks.
fit, dude. Good for
Yeah,
them.
there we go. There we go. That's I was actually gonna say because obviously move of the finals or the final day.
That was harder to figure out.
It's way harder to figure out.
Well, number one, it's more money, but on Sunday, typically, this isn't always, but typically there's more flashier moves in the prelims. Mm-hmm. So there's more standout moves, and I keep a list going, then I go back and rewatch them, and then I'm assessing essentially like probability of you pulling that move off, difficulty level associated with probability of you pulling it off, because like there's a lot of like 3-pack, and we hype them up when it happens, and rightfully so, but it's like Spicka runs through, gets a 3-pack, that's going on list. Yeah, it's going on list, but if some dude pulled out something he should not have pulled off based on the level of difficulty, and then the deeper in the game it gets, deeper in the tournament, all that kind of gets added in. But since Pate Smith's giving away $5,000, I mean, I go rewatch all the games anyway.
You should give it to all 5 fit players that scored those 2 points on impact in a minute and 10 seconds. You guys should be like, you know what? Y'all are getting an extra $1,000.
I can't wait to talk about fit because it's just amazing. But just because of the day they had and the tournament they had and whatever. But yeah, they deserve all the praise that we could possibly mountain upon them. But for Sunday, because I have to go back and rewatch every move that happened on Sunday. I keep a very thorough list of all those, and rewatch everything. I mean, I rewatch all those games and just the documents long. Anyway, but that's going to be harder because there was less stand-up moves on Sunday than there was in the prelims. But the prelim one, we got that one. So
Nice. I was gonna ask him. I asked if ABJ was still in here, but did he get hurt as well?
he did get hurt. Yeah.
What happened to?
I believe it's his ankle. And I did hit him up after the event, see how he was doing. I don't want to speak for him, but so if he's in here, let's see if he pipes in. But I think it's not confirmed as to how long he's going to be out or the severity of the injury. But I think the preliminary appointment that he had was trending towards maybe it not being catastrophic.
Oh wow,
so that's good.
You gotta get in those New Balance dad cleats, bro. That's what I was been telling him. We mentioned it. I was like, because you weren't wearing your dad kicks, man. You gotta wear those. You gotta wear If you wear the flashy stuff, you want to go just smooth, subtle New Balance.
I think that look, ABJ's young and he'll come back. I'm hyped on ABJ, and I think that he's been working hard. He's really dedicated towards it. Family man, got a big boy job. Like he's gonna be one of those that we're gonna keep watching and probably do really good big things.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty hyped on ABJ. Mm-hmm. So I just hope that it's not long enough that it cuts into the first part of the season because he was starting to crescendo up. Things were getting better and better for him because dude, he was having some real good looks out there before he went down.
And he went down at World Cup?
Yeah.
Oh, bummer. Dude, I mean, I'll tell you what, the field conditions at World Cup are probably some of the worst we play on. I mean, it's
Is it the loamy, sandy soil?
Yeah,
type
and then
situation?
it's everything's rutted out. Like those, I think who was it that dove into the snake for fit in the overtime point and just core sampled? You know, like it's rough, man. The ground is really, really rough just in Florida. That's actually one of the reasons we don't practice in Florida prior to World Cup. Is because it's like, man, it's just rough on your body.
Well, is it the same at, say, was it Legacy now? Because I played at Central Florida because we used to.
Yeah. It's very similar now. I think that Jason Edwards has done, from what I hear, I haven't seen it since he took it over, but from everybody I've spoken to, he's done just like an insanely great job with the place. And I think he rotates the field, so there's always a field they're not just destroying one. He's really done a really good job. And I don't know, a couple of you guys who are out there watching this right now, please by all means comment and let us know. But I've heard nothing but good things about that. Also, for those of you guys who are all pro guys here, you got a pro friend, whatever it is, whatever deals or decisions you guys make, let's make them on don't announce it until like Tuesday. Let's go Tuesday.
I do a show too. Yeah, if you guys want to do it here, that's fine. I'm like over breaking news though, because I don't really care about breaking news. I'm more the storytelling aspect of it. Yeah. So that's, everyone has their.
We literally fling shit at the wall and just whatever happens.
I'd rather just like wait till the dust settles, figure out what the story is, and then try to tell that story as accurately and as well as I possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have just a slightly more integrity than some of the other places online, but not by much. Not by much.
Hanging on to that integrity by a hair of her chinny chin chin.
Yeah. I'm not, but we'll break things. That's why we fire off the allegedly.
Yeah,
we've talked to all of our lawyers. We've got Pate and Chris Shear on retainer, and it's just like, hey, how much trouble can we get in for this? And then sometimes they're like, well, I wouldn't do that, and I'm like, well, we already did it.
So are we all right?
Yeah.
We're kind of.
Hey, ask Matty, what's the word on the Impact Super Deal? I've heard some rumors, but don't want to
all I've seen is the rumors that are out there, so I don't really know yet, other than rumors. But this is the thing: there's rumors every year about all these different things. Whether it depends on the team, and also there's been multiple times where, we get past the rumor stage. I'll talk to certain people, and it's like gonna happen. And then it doesn't happen.
And it doesn't happen.
So it's like, happen. And again, not only is this not our first rodeo, this is like our 30th rodeo. So anything's possible. But because I mean, if somebody's going to offer you a bunch of money to play paintball, it's kind of hard to say no based on. It's like anytime I talk to I have a lot of off everything conversations with people, mostly younger players come up because a lot of younger players don't know how this all works, right? So we start having conversations about stuff and they don't know what to ask for. They don't know what you're supposed to say about certain things. And I never ever tell anyone what to do. But the very first thing I always ask anybody is, I'm like, okay, well, do you need the money? Because if you need the money, we're having a different conversation than if you don't need the money. Because when this is all over and your paintball, career, as my knees will attest to, and I bent over to pick up a zucchini out of my garden and hurt my left knee the other day. Jesus fucking Christ.
Zucchini.
Well, I played a whole big game, totally fine. Next week, the picking the zucchini got me. It's just welcome to being in your mid-40s, bro. It's okay now, but anyway, I sound like...
Monty!
Dude, it's just ridiculous.
Damn these zucchinis.
Yeah. Again, whole big game, no problem. Zucchini, problem. Anyway, but once it's all over, it's just a story.
Put that on a shirt, by the way.
Even if you're making some money doing it, but it's like, what story do you want to tell?
Yeah.
And there's different things too. I use Brandon Cornell as an example because years ago I talked to Brandon and his choices were stay with the Ironman or go to Impact. And if he stayed with the Ironman, he was going to play every single point and he was going to be poster boy for the company and blah, 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 blah. But if he goes to Impact, he has to earn a spot. He's going on an all-star team. And it was like, I'm like, look, dude, I never tell anyone what to do, but here's two roads for you. If you choose this road, this is what you're going to get. If you choose this road, this is what you're going to get. But he chose Impact, and now he's a consummate starter on that team.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was kind of a harder road for him on the playing field. He had to earn that, So there's lots of different stuff that goes into this, but we're having a different conversation if you need the money.
Yeah. True. And that's like one of the big things, like with us especially, is like, I just had a conversation with a player about it just the other day, and I'm like, look, the biggest thing is how are you financially? I don't need to see your tax report, tax return, but if you don't really, if that part, it doesn't affect you whatsoever, then do what you want to do.
Yes.
But if it's like, hey, I'm going to play on Dynasty and I'm going to get, a couple $1,000, or I'm going to play on Impact and get a couple $100,000, like.
Well, but then again, this is where the complicated story begins. Is because, you could go and play on Impact and get paid and win a bunch of tournaments.
True.
Some years they've done that, and some years they haven't. And you can go play on Dynasty for whatever, like, again, less than the rich guys are going to pay, but maybe you win some tournaments, so it gets a little complicated when you get into the weeds. But if you're sleeping on your mom's couch, and someone's going to give you, whether it's 10 guns, 15 guns, 20 grand here, 5, whatever, if it's like going to immediately improve your position and get you off your mom's couch and help be a trampoline for you to, get your life together, then we're having a different conversation.
True.
So that's something that people got to keep in mind. But who knows, dude? Last season there was moves a little bit quicker, but I don't know. We'll see.
And you want to get them right afterwards. The Omara to Revo was already announced, right?
Was that already announced? I didn't see it announced.
I didn't hear that announced.
Juicy.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So back.
Allegedly, he went back to I don't know.
That's actually a good
Allegedly
too. No, I haven't heard anything about that Revo, like, they have money.
Yeah.
He used to play with them. He's still really good.
It's kind of close, like,
like he doesn't have to fly across the country. I just, I don't know with that one specifically, but that would make sense.
Yeah.
No pun intended, Henry sense. But, because they've been kind of a package deal for a little bit too, like Henry and Stephen O'Mara. Somebody did ask, I thought that was a good question.
He's out there in Iran right now.
Oh, wow. Bro, it's late over there.
Yeah,
and we did
3:30 in the morning.
We did bring that up last week.
Yeah, we talked to him about it, but again, that's real money is the difference.
Well,
and that what you just stated, I think, is the big contributing factor. It's like Chavez specifically, because we asked him, you've talked to him about it. We asked him last week specifically, like, and he's like, dude, my last name, we might have, it's just may as well share the same last name, right? And he's like, these guys are like my brothers. Like, I work with them. I've grown up. Like, this is my family.
Yeah.
But then again, someone's like, hey, all right, tight. I'll give you $100,000. You might be like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah. So the question was, do we think PB Fit's gonna get picked apart? So this is the question with the Hurricanes took in second at the beginning of the year. Obviously, a rough year after that. Whatever. You go pro, coming out of semi-pro, or however you get in, and there's this honeymoon period where you get a season 2, 3, depends on how you do. You get like a little honeymoon period where, again, depending on how your regular life is, but even if your regular life is pretty good, so you don't need the money, but you really want to win. Maybe that's part of what you wanted out of this. You want to be the best. You want to win a championship, and you realize, oh, this isn't going to happen with my boys. Again, that's a hard decision to make, right? And then if Dynasty calls you up, hey, dude, like most legendary team ever, or Heat, or whatever, whether it's money or legacy or both, again, these are the hard conversations that at the elite level that guys are having with themselves, with their loved ones, with their advisors, as the offseason begins and carries through. But with Fit specifically, coming off, again, I'm not none of those dudes' accountants, so I have no idea, but coming off a World Cup win, man, that'd be a tough one, you make your first Sunday, then you go win the World Cup as a new pro team, like, man, that's like a legacy right there where it's like, well, how good could we be? If we keep the band together, what could we do? Could we go win another World Cup? Could we be one of the top teams? Could we be a new dynasty or a new one of these top teams? And I don't know. I would be a little shocked if that team gets picked apart. However, if you're a general manager for one of these pro teams and you're not looking at these PB Fit players or any of this is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this is how the top teams stay the top teams. Like, you don't get a call from Dave Baines in the offseason unless you were an all-star on the team you came up with. So that's just is just how it is.
It also breaks down the team before they go on a run.
I've heard
it also breaks apart the team before it goes on.
It hurts one of your so that's
another reason why, like, you want to pick guys away from, like, dynasties, because you can cripple the team as well. It's a twofer.
For sure.
But you know what I've heard is, like, especially with the rookie teams and the rookie players that don't really know a lot of people. Because you talked about, you're like, what do guys ask for? And with the increase in all these robocalls, if Dave Baines calls you, it probably says spam.
I get so many spam calls.
And then when you get it, you're like, well, I'm obviously not going to... I'm not falling for this one, pal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But then he'll just send a text message or leave a voicemail, and you got to call him back. But the one, I mean, I will not name names, but as like, you know, I'm a vault. But the thing is that I did talk to. This is just one of the many stories throughout the years. But I was talking to this one pro player, and you know, he had the conversation with the team he was going to go for, and hadn't asked for too much. And then I get a call from that coach, and he's like, what the fuck does this dude think he's doing, you know? And I'd call the player back up. I'm like, call this guy back, apologize. Here's the number you're actually trying to shoot for. You know, like, they want you, but you're being a little unrealistic right now. Like, this is, and I'm not trying to get the player paid less. It's just that's the real, again, I'm a radical realist, dude. Like, that's how my mind is after all these years. I can't be anything else. Gotta play it as it lies.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the fun, right?
Yeah, it's fun. It's also more work, but you know, it's like but that's why I think it's important, because you need to, like, you know, because somebody, like, let's say you're looking for, let's say it's Dynasty, right? And you know, they're like, oh, it's Dynasty is the best team, best player ever, and you get on the phone with this kid, and he's like, dude, I want, you know, 90 grand and this and that and blah blah blah, and he's being like a little cocky, and you would call me up and be like, what is, Matty, what's going on here, dude? Like, and then if I would, then like that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I'd be like, hey, call Ryan back and tell him, apologize, say, I'm sorry. Well, they still want you, but like, dude, you can't come in swinging from the top rope, bro. Like, you're still new here, dude. Like, you don't even deserve that, number one. Two, where did you get this information from? Like,
I heard they're rich.
Yeah.
We don't got NFL, there's no NFL size contracts just yet. But maybe when that Hurts deal comes through, maybe as soon as someone, aside from Aftershock and the NXL, gets some of that Hurts money, then we'll really be cashing in. And, Matty, it is the off-season, though. You got plenty of time. Dude, you don't get to hang out with your family. I know your wife's pregnant again, but, like, nah, man.
Dude, I got documentaries to make.
No, you've got deals to make. You've got to be the middleman, pal. I mean, you've got to be the middleman. You got all the stats. Who better to call?
I'm not a middle. I don't want to be the middleman. I'll be an advisor if that's needed.
You should get 3%
consultant.
Agent's fee. You should be like, all right, hey, kid, listen.
No, but there's not enough money for it, dude. Maybe in 20 years, you know, if it actually happens, then I can play that role. But whatever. I know. But you know what life is, dude. It's like when you want to make things a little bit better for people. So it's like if you can just kind of clear out the bullshit a little bit, whatever it may be. I mean, I work with a lot of creatives, and we have a lot of conversations about stuff. It's like, kind of feel like it's part of my role in this game is just kind of clear the bullshit out a little bit, you know? It's like, let's just make this a little easier on everybody.
Yep. That helps, and that is nice. That is really cool.
Someone asked to, Schwartzgable said, how would things work if Marcelo were to leave Dynasty and wasn't part ownership of Dynasty? If he left and he
was a Ryan question.
Yeah, why? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like we have a non-compete, I believe, in place, but there's other intricacies and ways around it, where I don't know. It's like if you talk it over and it's all agreed upon and it's okay, then yeah, that's one thing. Or if it's when Oliver left, just kind of like was playing with us on Saturday and then wasn't playing with us on Sunday. We're like, huh? You know, like
I remember that.
And then he's like, and then he goes, and I'm gonna get a ride home with them, and we're like, what? Yeah. Played with us on Saturday against the Ironman, and then got to the field and had a meeting.
Yeah.
And said, I'm going to be playing with them, and I'm going to have them drop me off back at home. I'm like, oh, tight.
I know the Iron Kids documentary is coming out, so that's because a lot of this stuff will be not all in there, but like the 12 minutes of the Iron Kids documentary that we got to see was dope. That's going to be so epic.
So good.
The All That Matters, I'm wearing my All That Matters shirt today. That was dope too. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is that I'm just glad part of that story's getting out, because and I always used to joke, I would have, even though I'm playing against you guys when we were training or whatever, playing another team, but just being around to listen to the bickering between like you and Offer and Alex, I would have paid $10 for that to get like a 5-hour long front row seat to that sort of stuff. But yes, that weekend was.
Yeah, that was funny.
It was very tense.
Very tense. You're like, what is going on here? Maybe Impact picked up a big sponsorship from Michelob Ultra. I do know that there were some big.
That might have been the joke too, because of the VIP thing.
Oh yeah, nice one, Chris. Although there were some bigwigs allegedly at World Cup that was a potentially bigger sponsor than Hertz. Yeah, so there's potentially some big money people there. I know there were guys from the UFC there that were still talking and discussing about doing some sort of TV deal. Yeah. I know that they're planning on having a second. I don't call it season, but second episode of the ESPN show. Yep. So that's a game plan, and they're coming up with concepts and ideas to pitch to ESPN to change it up a little bit, or make it the same, or make it better. Yep. I know that the ESPN show is still airing. I had to tell that to Tom. He didn't believe me.
These are all things that are actually happening. This is not allegedly. These things are all happening. I can confirm all.
And then I believe there's also going to be an off-season, 4-team off-season, kind of like roundtable and like a weekend being played out in Florida to kind of test out some new concepts and theories and plans, because they're talking about possibly having like a 3 5-minute period thing, and then a moving 5-minute clock, so no point can go more than 5 minutes. And then otherwise it's the end of a point.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's kind of a lot of that in play, like tinkering with stuff. So
tinkering with stuff. And again, it's like, and it's funny because I do recall having this conversation with Tom out in, it was like one of the Philly events a couple of years ago, and he's like, hey, so we're thinking for the next event we're going to change, I don't know, some format aspect. And I go, well, why is that? He's like, well, I think I think it'll make the game better, and like more people will play. And I go, are we losing player base? And he's like, no, this is the biggest event ever, and last World Cup was the biggest event ever. And I'm like, well, hold on, let's not change stuff mid-season.
Yeah, for sure.
But you want to certainly have a focus group rather than just doing it at that World Cup where they just fired something off. Was not met.
Yeah, so that's always the rub, right? Is the intricate, nuanced discussion is we've created something that's been refined over years that currently exists. That's what we have now. Now, when we want to tinker with something, there's different parts of that conversation. There's how it's played, and then how it's consumed as an entertainment product. And what could be more entertaining for somebody could not be as beneficial for the guys playing it. But yes, if it's more entertaining, because more dollars in, again, we could literally consume the next 2 hours talking about this. You and I we've all discussed this for a long period of time. But yeah, the ESPN show was well received. We are going to try to do that again. Can't confirm that's for sure going to happen, but that is the talks. All that kind of stuff. The one thing I don't know about the Michelob Ultra sponsorship, that I'm not positive about. I don't know.
I think it was an anecdote from what Kyle had mentioned.
Yeah, again, I'm not confirming that. But as far as their, us continuing to try to push the media, yeah, of course, that's what we're here to do. Yeah. So like that's when we have to have that conversation about, which again could take up the whole show, and get us away from World Cup talk. But yes, it's like, well, what possibly can we tinker with in order to make it more entertaining? Because at the end of the day, when we're taking paintball as a commodity and showing it to the world, people have to be entertained by it, because if they're not, no one gives a shit. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about putting asses in seats and making people care. Because there's 1,000 distractions out there. You have a supercomputer in your pocket. There's 1,000 channels on the TV. Everyone's got all these different streaming devices and services. So yeah, that's what we're competing with. Like the endless black hole that is humans wanting to consume content. So that's what we have to go up against that, right? So anyway,
well, let's rip it into the World Cup stuff, because I mean we're pretty much dancing around it, talking about World Cup. We're like, oh yeah, this person's doing this and that, and I mean, what do you think is, I don't know, how do you want to present? Like, what do you think is the biggest story aside from PB Fit?
Well, I just want to give, this is what I think is fascinating about the past couple of years and what we've been seeing in the game of paintball. So I just want to give a ton of credit to PB Fit because of this historic win. Because if you look at what's happened since the COVID break, the two huge stories, if we take a 30,000 foot view of it, right, is that Dynasty's dominance, winning about half the tournaments since the COVID break, and what's the message to everyone out there in the world with, I mean, you guys are, 42 now?
I am.
Okay, so the core of Dynasty's 42. best team in the past 4 years. Essentially, I didn't win your 5th World Cup in a row, but like still, so it kind of sends this message. It's like, look, you can still play this game at the elite of elite level in your early 40s. That's a huge message for the game of paintball. You know, because when X-Ball was founded, it was like, oh, we just need to find, little tiny dudes with machine guns, and like, who cares what their names are? We'll make them famous, because they're the those little kids, the little track athletes, are going to be the ones that kind of end up becoming the next superstars. That was obviously about as wrong as you could possibly be. So you guys doing as well as you did was a big statement to anyone out there. And I've met so many dudes that have come back to the game at every level, because they realize, like, oh yeah, dude, I can still do this. My life's in order. I got some money. Like, dude, yeah, I need to get away from my family. I'm gonna go play some tournaments. So that's a cool thing. Now FIT comes up and they win this World Cup. So what's the message to the world there? You can start your own group, do it the hard way, earn your pro spot, go or get on a pro team. They didn't work out for them with, in 2021. They get up getting demoted. They whoop everyone's ass in semi-pro, go into the pro league, have not a rough go of it. They're right on the precipice of making Sunday, finally make their first Sunday, and then win World Cup. That's insane. What an amazing historic story. And the way they did it was crazy. They had to beat, if you look at their Sunday performance, they had to beat Tampa Bay Damage in game 1 in the Ocho finals. That's the team that just went undefeated at the last event. And yeah, Damage was a little beat up with some injuries and stuff. But they have to go beat the team that's won multiple tournaments in the past few years, filled with legends, that went undefeated at the last event. They got to beat that team in the very first game.
Yeah.
That just beat them the day before.
Yeah.
Then the last game. So they beat Damage, and they didn't beat them by 1. They beat them by 4.
Yeah.
5-1 was the score there. And then now you got to go play Red Legion. Yeah. Your next game is against Red Legion. Red Legion has lost to 2 teams all year long, Dynasty and X Factor. FIT is not one of those teams. Their plus minus points for versus against is insane this year. It's the best of everyone. It's crazy. So like on paper, Red Legion should smoke PB FIT, but guess what? This is paintball, and it's not always about what's on paper. So they go and they beat Red Legion. And then then they got to beat you guys. Now they got to go play Diesel. And you guys were undefeated, right? Before that run. Yeah. So now we got Diesel finally playing after 2 years, as good as they can play with that roster, whooping everyone's ass, looking really good, feeling it. Everything was working.
Oh, they were feeling it, all right.
Yeah, and and then felt it a little too much, got a little devolved into madness. But then we get this crazy entertaining game where 3 dudes are in paintball prison. It was wild. So all this stuff goes down. So they got to get through Diesel, who's like got this all-star roster and looked insane. Again, so on paper, do we give that one to Diesel? Probably on paper, maybe give it to FIT based on the year. But anyway, so they beat Diesel, and now you got to go play Edmonton Impact in the finals. And you're down by 2 with a minute, fucking 10 seconds left, dude. Oh, dude, salute to PB FIT. Oh, unbelievable, man. Yeah, what a win. What a win.
Well, and one of the things, and if you guys haven't watched the interview from last week, I mean, that was one of our bigger episodes, looking back on the views and the downloads on the podcast side of things. I mean, I think that every time or any chance you can get to listen to Colt, he's very well-spoken, very humble, and really shows the amount of work that he and they and the group all put in. So big shout out to him, especially because when we had him on the show earlier in the season, he was talking about his goals, and we brought up a couple of the clips up on our Instagram page. But it was pretty cool to see the goals that he had set, from personally, physically, and for the team, and have those pretty much all come off the box. Like,
amazing.
New Year's resolution is just solid across the board for him.
Yeah.
But then we talked about one thing that I think is a key factor in the mental game of things, because when you are the underdog, okay. Going back to our confidence discussion, like, you want to believe that you can beat these guys, and you put in the work. You know it's there. We have the talent. We can do it. But then when you're playing against a team, when the team is not the underdog, okay. So if it's Dynasty or it's the Russians, and I believe that he had said either to, I forgot who he said it, but someone was like watching a game, and they were like, all right, cool, we got to watch the Russians. We play the Russians next. Mm-hmm. Completely discounting the fact that PB FIT could beat them. I think it might have been Impact. And that made it that he's like, I heard that and it made me want to win more. Mm-hmm. But I could also see the Russian guys going in there and going, all right, let's beat these guys and we'll play Impact. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because when you look at the brackets and you're in there and I'm like, all right, cool, we play Heat. Cool, who do we play into? All right, sick. Well, So it looks like we're going to play. And that's like that dance between the confidence of, I know I can beat this team.
Yeah.
Who am I playing into? Great. We've got a great road to the finals.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to beat Impact. And who am I going to play in the finals? I thought I was, we're going to play Russians probably. Or maybe we're going to play X Factor. And I didn't have my card when you're visualizing that. But when you go in there, and if there's too much of that confidence, and you do not give the team the respect that they deserve, they'll sting you.
Yeah.
And I do believe that played a small role, not to take anything away from their ability and how they played, and they played the field differently. They were hitting their shots off the break. Yeah, everybody was playing perfect paintball, and there was an X factor on the field in every single position. It's not like they were bullies down the snake. They weren't bullies down the Dorito. They just hit their shots and didn't die.
Yeah.
And so all of that, when you put it into perspective, will help you become the best team in the world. But then you sprinkle a little bit of the other team disrespecting you in the sense of not giving you the what you deserve and giving you that respect, then you're gonna fall behind. And I mentioned that's kind of what Dynasty's problem had been, those two events that we played so poorly. It's like, all right, cool. We got Infamous, PB Fit the first day. All right, those will be our warm-up games. And then we got to beat Aftershock and whoever else. It's like, all right, we got those guys, and then next thing you know, we're losing.
But that's a great point, Ryan, and it's one of those things that the ego is both an ally and an enemy at the same time. And if you don't really keep a wrangle on that beast, it's either gonna be an asset for you or it's gonna be a liability. And that's something that anyone that's ever ridden a horse before, like you have this crazy powerful beast that's taking you across the landscape, but you have to hold on to those reins and guide it the entire time. And if you mess up at all and let that animal get away from you, then dude, you could get seriously injured. And so that's kind of like the ego, and so you want to have a big chip on your shoulder. You want to go into an event and be like, dude, no team can hold a candle to us. We're gonna stomp everyone out. We're the best. Like, you have to have that beast inside you that wants to go out and kill, but you also have to respect your opponent, because if you slip in any way, shape, or form, either you don't have the confidence and like the confidence starts to erode, like maybe we're not good enough. Like, you can't have that. You can't have the doubt seep in, but then you don't want to get overconfident. And it's obviously easier said than done, but that's part of sports. Like, that's part of this. That's part of the fine line of all this stuff.
Well, and then to add to that, you're not dealing with one ego. You're dealing with 5.
Yeah.
So even if we're like collectively like, yeah, we're better than these guys, so we say it in the huddle and we say all these derogatory terms and drop all these insults, and then if one person's like, this shit's easy, and another person's like, oh shit, we're only up by 4, it's not a good enough lead.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little worried still. Like
like you're
you know what I mean? And then other people are like, shit's in the bag, man.
Yeah.
It's like you're not dealing with one guy. It's not a one-on-one tournament. Like a golf, like if you're playing golf or you're in Formula 1 and you're super confident, like, I can beat these guys, I am the shit. You're dealing with the variables that you can control. I can't control everybody else's mindset. Yeah. And so you're constantly, you got to also be able to rein in everybody else's inner beast.
But that's part of like being a leader, right? I mean, I think that everyone in their paintball careers, if you have the aptitude and the ability to be a leader, then you have to step into that role, because somebody has to recognize that. Maybe it'll be one guy that's normally helping, but now for this specific moment, he's hurting, and you have to have the ability because like you have your whatever, you have your owner, right? And then you got your coach, and then you have your lieutenants and your sergeants, and that very much is the case. So you have to kind of know your role and be able to help out, even if it's just one other dude that listens to you, but he's the hothead crazy dude, and but he's really good, and you're the only guy that really he'll listen to, because he hates the coach or thinks he's the whatever. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have to. But this is again what makes it so difficult. It's so hard, It's to stay laser focused and have confidence in your ability and not let doubt and weakness seep in mentally, but also to be realistic about the people that you're about to play and also not take anyone lightly. If this is, and then also deal with all these different people and the game plans and the gear and the weather and, and the injuries and the paint. It's just,
how's the paint?
I think a lot of what you guys are saying too was like a lot of the reason we had such a hard time those last 2 years. Like a lot of those things that we were talking about was like believing in the coach, like not worrying about the whole big picture, and like we did that going into Cup. And this is something like I have to give credit where it's due, is I learned it from Dynasty. I was like, just worry about this one point in front of us. Don't worry about the game, don't worry about the last 2 years, don't worry about what we've dealt with, just worry about how do we deal with this one point. And we just took it one point at a time, and I'd bring everyone back. Like, don't think about the next game. It just
Yeah.
obviously went to shit by a small error, but like that was just we were like our foundation at Cup was discipline and 1 point, and like just being together and not worrying about like there was a lot more like cohesion, and I think like that's also a long conversation, so I'm not gonna get
but I'm actually glad you brought that up because when I was kind of looking at the crunching the numbers and starting to rewatch some games and thinking about all the different possible ways this conversation could go. I mean, there's 24 teams that played just in the Pro League at the World Cup. There was, the semi-pro conversation, the Commanders Cup, and, the off-season moves, a lot could happen. But to me, one of the biggest stories at Cup was Diesel's performance. And then Diesel's falling apart in that game against Fit, So, because you guys were so good, and as it was happening, I'm like, because we've had this conversation on and off camera multiple times for past couple seasons. And so I was pretty excited because we haven't had a decompress on this yet.
Yeah.
So I was really excited to kind of get what you just said. It's like, well, what was the magic for him? We talked a little bit about it at the event, but you're, the succinct elevator explanation of what was happening was that you guys were simplifying a lot of things. But we didn't really talk about that, So, but that was kind of one of the big stories there. Obviously Fit, and there, we can literally talk through every single one of these teams, but because Fit was so good and things were working out really well for them, and you guys were playing the field well, individual contributions, you were winning scrambles. I mean, you don't go undefeated in the prelims and all the way up until you lost to Fit without a ton of things going right and a lot of contributions from a lot of bodies.
Yes.
And then even, and that's why I wanted to have that discussion with you here, was that where did you feel the wheels came off? Obviously it started with Cyrus bunkering BJ, and then there was that engagement, and then obviously the bonus balling was already kind of happening for you guys. But I come from the old school. That's part of high level paintball. I wouldn't. If a game, sometimes games do devolve where one dude gets a little overshot. Maybe it wasn't even intentional, and then they get a little retribution, and another guy gets overshot, and it starts to get a little carried away. But that seemed to build for you guys. It was like, where did you feel that kind of went away from you guys?
Well, that's a like, I don't know that I think it's not like a big secret. It was just to me, and I've already expressed it to the team. I think it was just some selfish acts, like deviating from what had gotten us that much success at World Cup, and like playing so like we only had to like come back in one game. That was Scout. Like, even in that Fit game, we were ahead.
Yeah.
Then we had a fight, and then I think it was 2-2 when that first scenario happened.
Yeah, close.
It was just a loss of like, I think, control. Like maybe thinking you could get away with more, like especially like I think part of it is like when you have a lot of, I don't know, do you hear these funny things about like people that will like win the lottery, but then a lot of times then they go broke after. Like there's a high percentage.
Yeah,
like,
that's bad actually.
We went from like a extremely rough year, like a 20th place and a 19th place, and then feeling like we're unbeatable. Maybe that's where, and I know like in people's head, they're not like intentionally being like, I wouldn't do anything to sabotage this, but like that, the like complete shift for like receiving $50 million, you might just like, endorphins are high.
Well, and also
you blow the money.
No, and I want to say for the record, the reason why they felt this way, because even though you guys lost by 5 to Fit in the semifinals, you still finished the tournament with a plus 14.
Yeah.
You had some big wins out there. You beat up on Dynamite by 4, Mercy ruled Aftershock, beat the Hurricanes by 3, beat the Bears by 2. And then you go and beat Infamous by 3, barely beat Scout by 1. So you guys had that battle, and the Infamous game was brutal, and that was a bonus ball fest too. So the day started out on Sunday, so it's Sunday at World Cup, things are getting heated already, and then but the wheels fall off in 2-2 against Fit. But I could see why you guys felt unbeatable, because again, look at the games.
And in my like I think like I'm a reasonable person, but like when and nothing against like, it's hard to have these conversations because it's like you have to like, you need to back your teammates up, but also like I know when stuff's like maybe too far. In that infamous game, I respect like that Zach was getting shot so much when he's like in Mouse's face, and I would probably be doing that also, but like looking at it outside and seeing like how much Zach is getting shot, if like I'm a referee, I might be like, I'm gonna let that one go, but like I'm keeping a note of it. Like that was a little too much. So when
that one did get let go, right?
It
there
did.
was no penalty
It
on
did.
that one, which I agreed with.
But then it, you know, it like stacks. It's like it stacks in the like the referee's mind. So if they see it again,
you're gonna get the flag on the next one.
Yeah, and I mean they originally like I think that maybe they kind of let it go with the Colt thing. It was like the altercation with the ref. It was like, okay,
You guys, it's like you're being judged on. You're beginning to become judged on your character. Also.
Yes.
That's and it's
what,
like if you have somebody who's unbiased, in which there's nobody who's truly unbiased.
Yeah.
There's always going to be like it's going to be
even if you don't
50.001 to 49.099. You know, there's going to be something, and if there's something that tips the scales, in which there will or will not be a penalty assessed, because you see it, like one ref will call a minor for getting clipped in the pack and, you know, moving forward, or not stopping at the very next bunker when someone's in full, and then the very next same ref will do the same thing with a different player and not give them a penalty. And you'll see it a lot, and it's to the ref's discretion. But if you give them a reason, and the reason could be that you're a jerk. Straight up.
Or you're acting like a jerk.
Or you're acting like a jerk. Yeah, you might, Clint's not a jerk.
It would have been a blessing.
But you are. No, for sure. You're being a jerk right now.
Yeah, you're being a jerk right now.
It would have been a blessing in disguise maybe if we would have got that penalty in the infamous game.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And won that game.
Yeah.
But have that lesson.
The refs fucked you.
I don't know.
As I circle all the way back around,
this
is what Kyle's trying to say.
Like
just remember that for
really,
2025, guys. It's him.
No, it was just one of those things where it was like, I could just see it in the, we always talk about body language, right? In the body language, you guys were stalking around the field like, we got this, like everyone was hyper confident, and
it
got a little wild, and
yeah.
like the bonus balls. But I mean, that's OG paintball, bro. Like, that's fine. Clint Johnson came out of Texas, like Zach Patient. He didn't even flinch, bro. He took like
that was insane.
That was good.
That was insane.
Dude.
He kind of put his hand up for a second. Was like, hold on, I gotta.
Something's
happening
I
right
got
here.
something to say to Mouse real quick, and it
but
dude, you watch it in slow mo, especially the ones when he gets in his face. Like Zach is not. I've been shot to pieces. I've seen everyone shot to pieces for 30 years. Like Soya and Ron Kilborn never flinched. Like I've seen a lot of not flinching before. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody eat that many shots and not flinch.
Not even like, what's going on?
No, he didn't. He just sat there and like just kind of bowled his back up a little bit so he could get the brick wall against Clint shots, and I even said I told this because I saw Zach that night. I saw Zach on Sunday night, and he was like, it's all good, dude. It's paintball, bro. Like I didn't care. But he's like, that's fine. I would if I was Clint, I would have done the same thing. If I see my dudes are gonna go get in my guy's face, like I'm gonna walk him off the field too.
I think I'm totally not against it. I think you just have to like also take log of what you've done, which might have been seen, and maybe be like, I got away with that. Like maybe I should.
I'm not gonna give the benefit of the doubt on the next one.
I'm gonna be extra nice for like a little while.
Something that's like interesting about that I saw that's not even like really talked about is also, Zach gets in Mouse's face. We've seen when in the past when someone got in Mouse's face, he did that action and Mouse got suspended. Zach comes into Mouse's face and you see Mouse first like turn away, like I'm not going to do this.
Discipline on Mouse's behalf.
And then it was someone else's turn to learn a lesson on our team this event.
Yeah.
So it's like,
no, you're being honest about this because I got the same read on it when I was watching it. It's just I was wondering what BJ was thinking, because I understand, hey dude, you just got bonus balled, but your team is on fire. you're in a close game. Yeah, you just have to, sometimes in this game, you have to just take the pain, shut up and walk off the field, or maybe say something to the dude on the way, like, hey, this is how you want to play it? All right, man, well, I'm going to wear you out the next chance I get. Like, that's the type of thing you would say. But he bulked out right out of that situation and kind of butted him a little bit, which I think sent both those guys to paintball prison.
Well, it did. And I don't know if I told you this, but I didn't know that Cyrus also got suspended. So I didn't voice, like, I'm in there.
I didn't know that it happened either at the time. Everyone. I just saw him not playing, and I saw him look down. I'm like, oh, he's in. Okay.
So when Clint got suspended, I run over to Trozen, and I'm like, how are you going to suspend Clint but not suspend Cyrus? Mm-hmm. He did the same thing. He goes, I did suspend Cyrus.
You're like, oh, my bad.
When I suspended Cyrus and BJ at the same time, and I was like,
but why did Cyrus get suspended?
It was malicious intent.
Oh.
I mean, he did pump him up pretty good.
And I think we asked Cyrus on the show, like, BJ, he did run into him, which is not the right thing to do, but he also did it enough to, like, where it wasn't like a full impact. It was kind of show you, like, you can't do that to me, like, I'll stand up for myself. And then Cyrus sold a little bit, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Like, he said it, like, you can flop a little bit, like, good on him. Flop. That's smart.
For sure.
He didn't sell it hard enough, he says.
Cyrus, hey dude, cheers. You absolute legend, bro.
Like, that's good. I'd do the same thing. Like,
I don't know. I think he sold it pretty good. They just
no, he did. That's what he got the penalty.
I mean, he could have fallen on the ground.
But like,
he could have just
either way, like, BJ
could have LeBron'd it. Like, yeah.
Well, BJ won at the beginning of all. Shouldn't have done that. And two, like, I don't know. I mean,
but dude, honestly, when I was sitting there and I'm like, MVP conversation, one of the reasons, like, because there was, Cyrus had some really big moments, but in that close game, him deciding consciously to kind of pump BJ up a little bit and shoot him extra, even though it did cost PB Fit Cyrus for that game, that was kind of where it started to fall apart for you guys.
It was. Yeah,
so, like, that was the moment. So it was like blow for blow for blow, and then that happens. Again, they lose Cyrus, which is at this point a huge loss for Fit. But maybe in another university doesn't get suspended for that, and then it is BJ for the physical contact that goes out. But I was like, man, that was a really high paintball IQ, gnarly-ass moment for that dude to decide to do that. And yes, slightly brutal, but dude, it's the pro league, man. Like, we're not playing patty cakes out here, dude. This isn't peekaboo with your kids.
I'm glad
this is the best, gnarliest players in the world, dude. We got to let the dudes play the game a little bit here. So, Cyrus, salute, bro.
I'm glad Cyrus won, too, because I was talking to a couple people in VIP during the final, and they're like, I'm like, who do you think gets MVP? Just, like, here, and everyone's like, Chavez, or Cole. And I was like, I think it's Cyrus. Like, that, like, doing that float spot.
Yes, the float spot. I've been watching the game so hard.
Doing it, like, consecutively for, like, 80% of the points that you play and having, like, high probability of surviving and being effective is fucking hard.
Well, and then you got to get up in the mix after that and make really intelligent decisions.
Yeah. So
like, dude, again, nothing against Chavez, nothing against... Dude, they played outstanding. I mean, Chavez is a beast.
Yeah.
Colt is is a gunslinger he's like an elite gunslinger for sure. And and Colt was shooting tons of bodies on the break. But it's kind of, when you look at those MVP conversations, if it's really close, if we're sitting here and it's like, oh, is it going to be this guy or this guy or this guy? To me, it's difference maker moments.
Sure.
Right? And if one heavily weights towards the other, then, but it was just, and that's a treacherous spot to play. You got to play the float. You got to attack the middle.
Yeah.
Like, that's really, really hard to do.
I mean, Ryan and I talk about this a lot when we're talking about field layouts or coaching or what's something important. And I know you understand this too. Like, when we're coaching younger teams, it's like, does anyone know how to sit in this blind and shoot a blind shot over for a guy that you don't know is actually going to be standing there, but you have to, like, guess? And also, you either shoot there or you shoot here, but you have to make the decision when the horn goes off and seeing their body language. Like, it's a fucking really hard thing to do versus, like, running to the snake and making sure you don't get shot.
Yeah.
To make a decision as the horn goes off, an intelligent decision, it's not.
Where you get a read, because when you go up, if there's no one running through your stream, you're in a bad spot. You have to make an immediate split-second read.
And
then
give up on it,
to give
save
up,
your body,
or
like,
was it a delay?
Yeah.
So you're going through all these things at a microscopic moment, and playing that float spot, that's arguably one of the hardest things to do. What's also funny too is that I remember I was talking with the cameraman, might even been on camera, and we talked about this in the shows too, leading up to it. But I'm like, whoever plays this, because after, went to train with, shouts to the Narcos, but went and trained them before their World Cup. I think they took 4th, too, at the event.
They did well.
Yeah, they did really well. But anyway...
Wait, so you were commentating and then you also went over there and...
No.
Like,
I can't coach teams out of that.
Okay,
That's impossible.
okay.
But the weekend before.
Oh, weekend before,
Because you were
yeah,
in
yeah.
Texas or whatever, so they hit me up and I went out there and helped them out. But I remember telling them, I was like, we have to play these float spots because I need you to get reads on this for exactly what you were just talking about and how we're discussing how difficult that is. Because the teams that do this the best are probably going to win this tournament at every level.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Cyrus did that incredibly well.
Yeah.
He was playing in that float spot a ton, going out shooting different lanes too, and then having to fill up. And yeah, it cost him his body occasionally. That's the risk versus reward in that situation.
Totally.
And then also being, again, this is a grown man doing a grown man sport, dude. Like, and somebody had asked, like, well, what's my opinion on this being bad for the sport with the bonus balls, dude? Like, I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s playing this game, dude. Like, I don't, like, we're competing with the rest of the world with mixed martial arts, football, where a dude could get paralyzed, dudes flipping skateboards a billion, times and like in 30 feet in the air, and surfing, guys are surfing, they could drown. Like there has to be some element of physical spectacle, and the only thing we have there is that type of push and pull at the deep end of the sport. Now, should it be for everyone? Absolutely not. But when we're talking about the tip of the spear and the pros playing, like it has to be entertaining. And I remember there was you had got this penalty. We were having this conversation with the powers that be at the PSP because you had got shot and made a mistake in a tournament you guys did well at, but it was like one of those ultimate moments, and you had got shot in this big move that you made, and you jump up and like hit a bunker and they throw a penalty on you for just not being mad at yourself and hitting a bunker.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with Lane and the powers that be at the PSP, and I was like, this is ridiculous. We cannot be like, because it got a little crazy for a while.
Yeah.
And so obviously it's a conversation. I'm not God, but I just, in my opinion, with paintball and what we have to give to the world, look how entertaining World Cup was. Look how entertaining that AC Diesel fit game was. So, and no one got hurt. No one, you get a little tenderized. You go back and you got some extra welts. But I think that's a conversation to have.
in the timeout zone, like having a conversation and laughing. Like
BJ was not having a good time in there.
He was not.
He was not having a good time. He was not happy about the scenario.
But
He
I think
was happy
that's
that he lost
also
his cool.
part of like
mental thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and look, dude, and here's the thing.
I kind of want your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah,
though,
I mean,
'cause, like, you've been around forever.
Yeah, I've been bonus balled a bunch. I think wasn't exactly bonus balled me the one time.
Drew Templeton.
Yeah. And I'm like, look, I'm not worried about it. It doesn't hurt. Like, I'm fine with it. Actually, Cyrus even said it. He's like, tournament paint doesn't even hurt. But there is, and this is the gray area of this malicious intent, right? Clint doing that to Colt, malicious intent. Clint doing it to ZP, kind of malicious intent, but they were jawing at each other, so you could kind of stop. There is a point in time, and unfortunately,
he shot,
this is
probably Zach 10 times more than he shot. Colt.
Yeah, but when he bunkered Colt, he shot him all underneath the mask in the face. Like, that is kind of fucked up. And then when Cyrus did it, like, he did it. There was a reason why he do it. When Rainey does it, it's not malicious intent. Well, Rainey's not trying to harm anybody. But where is the line? I think that I like the idea that we're not getting this bullshit penalties like what Oliver would get, or like I think you got that.
I got the one with Archie.
You got the one with Archie. You shot him one time in the pack, and that's the ref's discretion kind of thing. And there was another one I think you got when you were shooting down the wire and someone got shot. Someone got shot on the inside out of the snake, and when they stepped into the lane,
which was a blind,
you shot him like 3 times. You weren't like, oh, there we go. It was just they stepped into it. You got a penalty for that. And Oliver used to always get these penalties and then not get them when he's getting his back destroyed, blown to bits. So you can't have like the fine line of what is what. You kind of have to allow it. Now there can be warnings throughout, but I want to say, and I'm Matty, you certainly can, if you want, to hurt someone. And there are areas on the body, especially the head, the back of the back of the ear.
Yeah.
Like if you run up to somebody and you're just like, what's his? Was it who did it to JC? When JC was that Dylan? Dylan's in here when they
teed off.
On each other.
Oh,
I think it was Dylan.
Yeah, I mean that was gnarly.
When they teed off on each other, they both got
a couple years ago. Yeah.
And like there,
like a standoff.
Yeah, it was
standoff. Yeah.
And look, there is a fine line, and unfortunately, if you leave it to the ref's discretion of what is and isn't malicious, you're like, well, hold on, he just did that to my guy, and you're gonna me doing payback is now I'm getting the penalty. So there is a fine line, and I think that you do need to police it in some way, but I don't know how.
We just don't. Okay, so look at hockey, right? They tried to take the fighting out of hockey, couldn't do it, right? Like, it's part of the game. We don't have fighting in the current incarnation of the game.
Right, Kyle?
What's up?
I said, thank God.
Like we don't. So
Like
we don't
getting
have
invited to
enforcers.
taser
No one's
ball.
fighting. I mean, I've heard, seen fights at fields, and we almost got in some different fights, and that's a story for a different day. But we don't have that. We don't really have physical conduct or contact. So what part of the game, from a spectacle perspective, what do we got?
No, that was just funny. You go ahead. We'll talk about it.
I'm just saying that, as I've talked about many times, you have, if you look at, I love history, and when you look at the history of all the sports, you can kind of codify the different elements of the games that have made them predominant in society. It's heroes, history, ongoing narrative, spectacle, and statistics. And spectacle is a big part of it. Like, what's the spectacle of your sport that is going to be captivating to a human mind that's going to want them to pay money to sit their ass in a seat for multiple hours to watch this thing instead of doing all the myriad of other things they could possibly do. And with paintball, we are shooting paintballs at each other, and as we tell people that haven't played this game before, so if you're on YouTube, you find this video, like, yeah, it hurts a little bit, but it's just a little sting. It's not really that big of a deal, but that's part of it.
Sure.
It's a hard and humbling sport in the sense that sometimes when you do things right, it hurts, and when you do things wrong, it hurts. So this spectacle of that intense battle with the pros at that level, and I don't want it to descend into absolute madness every single time, but occasionally we catch a game where there's a lot at stake, where AC's playing the best they ever have, and they feel like they're on fire and they're destined to win this one, and PB Fit, the rookie team, is trying to go and make history here, and all of a sudden you have these two titans that clash, and it gets a little heated, right? Like, welcome to professional sports. Like watching baseball when I grew up, it was like there was multiple benches clearing brawls every single year, even though it's baseball, and then in football, they're smashing their bodies into each other. So, it's whatever, longer conversation, but what were you pointing out that we need to address?
Oh, it was just funny. These Porky said they should do what they do in hockey, and where they allow the players to drop their gloves and go till someone falls. So do the same. Let the dude stand off and light each other up for 10 seconds, and then call it.
So I think.
Well, I used to always have the joke, which I think I've said on your show before, is that if we want paintball to be super popular, no face masks, everyone shoots autocockers, and allow fighting.
Yeah, tight.
I know it's not going to happen. It's a joke, but
Well, I do.
But I would pay to watch that.
Yeah, I do like the one part that you had to add in there when you're like, well, paintball. Well, at least in this incarnation of it, we don't allow this. So Maddie's like, all right, so what are the rules we should be setting forth here? Maddie's gonna be like autocockers and unlimited bonus balling and fighting, because you're like, well, at least this version now that I'm commentating.
Do we want people to pay to watch this or not? That's kind of the question we're asking here. So are you going to give me your 2 hours for this amazing show, or are you going to be bored and confused?
Okay.
So
let's put it this way, hypothetical. Kyle, what does your salary need to be per year if you know that at least 4 times a year somebody...
He's not going to have to fight.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's not going to be the enforcer.
Tyler Harmon or Mouse.
No, you would get a big-ass bruiser on the team, and they know they have to fight that guy if they mess with Kyle. They don't. Do you think Wayne Gretzky was getting in hockey fights? Hell no. The enforcer, anytime that you think you're going to have to get in a fight? No.
I was hoping not. I don't know.
Yoshi's probably going to have to fight.
Yeah,
but you're not going to have to fight.
Blake will handle it.
No,
Blake
Blake. Are you kidding
Blake
me?
will for sure.
Anyone touches you or shoots you extra, Blake would be all up in their face. If you fucking touch Ray again, I will cut
He's
you
already like that.
Time to get Tyler back on the team.
Yeah, we got to pick up Tyler.
Yeah,
again.
you guys aren't going to have to fight. That's not your job.
Never mind.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I thought that there's just going to be people who are like,
500,000.
Go look at Gretzky. Gretzky was tough, but if they touched the Golden Boy, the enforcer whose literal job was there to protect Gretzky, they would go up and be like, if you touch that dude one more time, we're going to go. So if you want to go, touch him again. And sometimes they would touch him anyway because that guy has to support himself or support his family, and that's his literal job is to get into fights. That's what he's there for.
damn.
I will say, I bet there was like a tough decision between like the refs and maybe Jason as well. So like BJ, you can't like make physical contact with another player, especially like showing like force.
Yeah.
So you have to like as far as suspending Cyrus there, you have to make a decision. do we just suspend them both and like, because it was both, we don't want this to get out of hand, or do we not suspend Cyrus, we just suspend BJ and we let whatever is about to go down for the rest of this match go down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a big piece of it, I think, too, as well. And that's why I was so upset that I didn't get the information that Cyrus had gotten suspended for what he did. Because I didn't play a whole lot of this tournament. I'm keeping this all together with Mark, like in the pits and giving us direction, making us like stay disciplined. That was one area that I felt if I would have known that, I would have made sure that Clint didn't seek like retribution because I would have known that they are already on top of it. And so that's just like, I mean, I think it could have gone either way, and I could deal with it either way.
No,
but,
that's interesting because I didn't know either as the broadcaster.
Yeah.
This is where we need Lauren, but then for you guys, it's like having there be some sort of, all right, gross major on such and such, and a gross major on so and so, and they are now they have been disqualified for this match. Because then also I didn't know because our breaks there are nothing, and we had so much to shoehorn into the broadcast with all the different divisions. So when we headed into the next match, I was openly questioning, hoping someone would send me the rule on it. But I was like, I don't know if Cyrus is going to be suspended for this next match. Obviously, AC Diesel's knocked out, but I didn't know if he was going to be playing. And then he plays the first point. I'm like, okay, he's obviously not suspended, but I didn't get that information either. You know, so I'm also kind of sitting there going, like, I would love to have this information because I kind of need to know this for the narrative. Anyway, but the question I did have for you, though, was what was Clint's... You know, he kind of said it when we put the camera on him in paintball prison, but he felt that because I had the clip, like, I got the clip of the ref, like, supposedly touching him, but it kind of looked like the ref maybe was, like, looking for a hit or kind of went like this. It wasn't really, like, the ref didn't push him.
No, the ref put his hand up like this.
But maybe, like, but it wasn't, like, a hit or anything.
It was like, can you just, like...
Hey, chill for
a second?
Yeah, and then he immediately, like, smacked his hand out. And that...
We should do a Mystery Science Theater, like, commentating what we think he's saying.
Yeah, like a bad lip reading type situation.
Wait, you finish what you're... Sorry.
No, I just was... What was his defense? You know, like, what did he say to the team afterwards? Because, like, that was a big mistake. Because afterwards, you guys got no benefit. I mean, it was like penalty. It was like it's like just a red swarm.
Yeah,
of
and
penalties
it's like
for
we
you guys.
started a point with 2, and we got a minor.
And still got a penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you guys had no chance after that.
No,
so like if you touch one of our guys, you guys are gonna wear it.
I
It's
remember
kinda
one point I was like winning. I was like the last person, and then I see a flag go up, and like all the refs are running to the other side of the field to look for it. I'm like, I'm over here.
Yeah,
I'm alive. Come hold me.
I mean, it was a very interesting match until that point.
For sure.
And then after that, it was just a swarm of penalties for you guys, so that every single point was non-competitive. Which, when you look at the score, again, what's crazy about Diesel's run is you guys ended up losing by 3. You ended up losing by 5, but you still...
That was the determinant.
But you still ended up... even though you lost the last game by 5, if you win that game, I mean, you would have finished with a plus... Like, even if we don't go to whatever the finals ended up being, you would have still finished with, like, over 20... Plus 20. Over. Plus 20.
That's a lot.
Which is great, because Dynasty's won a lot of tournaments with, like, sitting on, like, a plus 21.
Yeah.
I mean, Fit was at a plus 25.
I'm like full confidence that like if we win that match, we're winning the tournament. That's how the card.
That's a solid argument. That's a solid
and
argument.
I like nothing to. I mean, hats off to Fit and how they did it. That's also like a big mistake on Impact to lose that match with that situation.
Oh, for the finals?
In my opinion, like
when we're talking about like World Cup stories.
Like no, like if you haven't, like Ryan will agree, if you have 1 minute left and you're up by 2, I think you know like what to do not to lose that match. Right. So that's like a little bit also of an error I think on Impact's part. Like
that's what I'm saying.
I'm not trying to take anything away. Like there's both pieces there, but like
you send your number 1 guy who's already the bag to go get some Michelob Ultras for the boys.
the reason why like we've had different coaches through this whole time. The reason like I had a lot of influence on this, and that's why we made sure when we had leads, like we kept the leads. Mm-hmm. One of the games we had to fight back, but like I don't know.
Only one.
Yeah. And the game that we lost.
But that's my point. Is you had a lot of leads to keep. You had a lot of leads to keep.
Yeah.
Which you did.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. I mean, I would like to get this number from you guys. Okay. It's the finals at World Cup. Impact's up by 2 with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. They're playing PB Fit. We run that 100 times. How many times do you think PB Fit wins? That's how cool this win is.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's Impact, dude. Like, you guys beat Impact down 2 with 1 minute after beating all these teams.
That's just somehow how it does. I wish there was. I don't know if you have it off the top of your head or in your notes somewhere. You probably do, but like, how many, like, up by 1 or like 1 point margin games with 30 seconds left or something under? That'd be an interesting stat because we kind of touched on it, like what the mentality behind it is. Like, all right, guys, just go out there, make it to your spots. Don't lose this point. Don't die. And you're like, fuck.
I did look at that a while ago, but the thing that I've noticed, we're talking about the mentality a lot here on the show, which I love, but I just feel that, and the meta is definitely changed in the game. It has partly to do with the strategy on the field, but before it was like, just make it to your spots and cross it up. Like, that was what it used to be, right? And that just doesn't work anymore.
No.
You have to throw a little bit of a punch.
That's what I think.
Yeah, which is 100%. But that's kind of one of those things. But it's also the mentality thing, because you have one group that's playing super tentative. And it comes down to, so if you're in a situation where it's like, let me get this out here without spelling here. So if you're in a situation where, okay, I go off the break.
Don't point it right directly at the camera.
Don't point it directly at the camera.
Yeah, okay.
Because we got taken down.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Maybe I should put this down then. But
no, you can. Like,
let's see what happens.
You can, like, yeah.
But no, but my point was this,
anyway.
right? So it's like you start on the break, right? And it's about risk incurred, as we always tell our divisional teams. Sometimes guys don't want to run to this far spot, or they want to go to the safe spots, and you have to tell them, if we don't incur risk, we're never going to win this tournament. You have to incur risk at some point in time. So when you go up and you have a lead, which is one of the parts of the fear, right? When you have that lead and they have a lot of time to work with, but how it works is like, so everything starts to kind of get tighter, right? So it's like, instead of being slightly risky on that break where you pop up and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to shoot this lane and shoot this lane. I'm going to wrap around and maybe get that back center. All of a sudden you're just like, I'm just going to stay alive.
Right.
And now you're just watching for the far runner, right? And you're just tucked in as tight as possible. And now we get in the spot where I'm just like, oh, okay, I don't want to die. You're not engaging in any gunfights.
Looking at the clock.
You're looking at the clock and you're like, okay, time's ticking down. And everything's just, and everyone's doing that. All 5 players. The other guys are like, I'm putting a guy in. They have nothing to lose. I'm putting a guy in. But the angles they're dealing with, there's not the 3 separate angles anymore.
It's like this versus like this.
Yeah, and as we always say, paintball's a game of angles. So now all the angles are here. Maybe there's a couple angles in here, but then everyone gets in. And they have and so they're flooding up the field, and everyone's like, why doesn't everyone do it all the time? It's because there's no one there to shoot at you, bro.
Yeah.
So it's like, and now they take all the 50s, and then everyone, now you're in bad spots because you have all these shitty ass spots.
Yeah.
And everyone's in there like this.
You don't want to take a lot of ground.
He's on me, and that's kind of and then you do that multiple times, and it's like, why do these teams come back? Well, they're incurring risk, and it's actually way less of a risk because those angles are really not beneficial for the team with the lead.
Yeah.
And that's why the meta has definitely changed. So when you are going into that situation and you have a lead, you got to throw punches. You got to you still have to incur some risk.
I agree.
I think the most amazing thing that's not even like talked about really anymore. It's not that important, I feel like, for a lot of people, and it's very fucking hats off to Jason. He's made the fields that no matter how good your game plan is for individual point, there's a way to beat it. There's a counter and a way to beat it. It's just like, if you can, like, how much time are you buying fooling the other team? But
yes, there you go.
Every single way you like lay out, there's always open holes to beat it. It's like how fast you figure it out, or like if you preserve all your 5 guys alive and you work together to beat it. But like, if you have the best game plan at a tournament and you do it over and over and over, and then come Sunday, and I think this is a big reason why in Philly we got beat right away by Heat, even though we went like 4-0 in the prelims last year when Hinman was coaching, is because we didn't deviate and change our game plan up, so Heat mopped us up.
Because they adjusted.
They watched what we did, and we didn't throw them a little curveball.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's like if you have a 120-mile-an-hour fastball, but that's all you throw,
Suarez,
I think people are going to hit it.
Padres reliever, bro. It's like if you're going to sit up there and throw your 100 to 101 to 99 mile an hour fastball, if you're going to throw it 9 times in a row,
someone's going to hit it.
Even the dude that hits 245 with 9 jacks is eventually going to dial that fastball in, bro. Like you have to have I say this all the time to our guys, it's like, it's one of my favorite phrases is the dislocation of expectation. And it's a phrase taken from CIA and different covert ops around the world, but that's how they interrogate people. In order to get information out of people, you have to give them the dislocation. They're expecting something, and you dislocate their expectation, and they're like, "Whoa, what's happening?" Right? So it's the same thing with paintball, because it's whatever curveballs.
Yeah.
Easy way to say it is you're throwing curveballs at people, dude. You know,
or you're
so,
like, I give up. This guy's not gonna give me anything, and you leave.
yeah, and you
But
leave.
it's like,
but then someone else walks in. Hey, man, you want a cigarette?
Yes,
Can I get you a drink? You want a soda? What do you want? You hungry? You know, whatever it may be. Or you go that route, but you're just constantly changing things up because, you know, again, if I know you're up a ton of points, or you're running the same game plan over and over again, and that's also tough to go away from because people are like, oh, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, yeah, that only works so much.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, but 100%.
I'd like to ask. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but Junior sponsors from BFP Gear sponsors question of the day, and he sent me one in, and I was like, oh, I think this is a great like kind of kickoff point to kind of talk about a lot of these things. But Junior's saying, who do you think is the most clutch player in 2024? Oof.
One of the most clutch players I've seen in the end of 2024 was Alec Holland from Uprising.
Okay.
Alec Holland.
And is he also a rookie?
I think so. Yeah. He's so good. He's getting so good. He's basically like their Marcelo Margot right now. You know, like kind of plays like back a bit, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, can shoot bodies on the break.
Does he have a large beard also?
No, he has a clean shaven face.
Who beat who won the one-on-one against Revo?
Alec Holland.
Yeah, he's got a big old beard, doesn't he?
No.
It was on the other side. It looked like, I feel like they all have big old beards.
Yeah, no, he beat L.A. Weaver in the one-on-one.
Yeah.
And that's why when we're sitting there with the one-on-one situation, I'm like, well, who are they going to send out? Is it going to be Graham Arnold? Is it going to be Nate Schrader? And then they send Alec out. And Alec's he's just one of those guys that I'm like, man, you know how it is. You guys watch a lot of paintball too. Mm-hmm. I've watched all of the pro paintballs that there are, right? So I'm up there and I'm watching. There's what's happening when I'm speaking on, and then there's also another talk track that's going on in my head, which would be kind of like if you and I were sitting around crushing beers, like, hey, bro, what are you doing? You should do this or you should do that.
Right.
That's another thing, and then I filter that, and then it becomes the broadcast. But I'm also kind of looking at certain guys being like, hey, dude, you should probably do this at this point in time. But Alec Holland is almost never making mistakes these days. Like, when I'm looking at his situation, I'm like, oh, you could be here, you could be there. No, like, I'm never looking at where he is being like, oh, it'd be really good if you could filter out right now, or if you could be in that 2 position, or you could be here. No, he's just that good right now. So I would say as far as, you know, that, and then, I mean, I don't know. It'd be more like per team. You know, it's like, who's that guy on each team? Because everyone plays a different role. Like, you play a different role than Marcelo plays. Mm-hmm. You need, just like the heart can't do what the lungs do, the liver, the pancreas, like the body has all these different things requiring certain functions for me to ambulate around the world to do the things that I do, and that everyone has to do. A paintball team's the same thing. Like, you have to have your threats. You got to have your guys set the tempo and pace for everything. You have to have your guys that are clutch and save points. Sometimes, you know, that's what made you so good, right, Ryan? Is that you can play the first attacker, or you can play Marcelo's role. You know, like, you can dip your head into all those things. And how constantly I'm having conversations with the younger guys coming up, are like, oh, dude, you know, like, I'm slaughtering people in the snake, but I want to diversify my game. And I'm like, that would be like this, you know, the tailback coming up and being like, dude, I really want to play corner. It's like, what, or like, I want to play defensive. What are you talking about? Like, everything, you're the most athletic guy in the field, bro. What are you talking about? Like, we have to have you play that role. Yeah. Why are you trying to, you know, take your importance off of this? Like, are you trying to save your knees? Like, your shoulders? Like, what's wrong? You hurt? I don't know about it.
Mine is a biased opinion. And like, I'm a fair person, but I think just because of like how our games ended up, even though we were really close,
Alex
in a lot of
in the chat too, by the way.
What?
Alec, what up?
Oh, there you go.
We got a lot of pro
Salute,
players
brother.
that are in here.
Hey,
and just kind of like
double salute to Alec
You
Holland.
mouse.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just saw Alec and I was like, I just want to give a salute to that kid because Jesus Christ, he's getting good. Sorry, what were you saying?
I would also give it to say like this might be a biased decision, but like I would give a lot like Mouse saved us a lot. Like, even though we had really bad performances, a lot of them were like 1 or 2 point games where we could have lost by way more if it wasn't for like what Mouse did.
Yeah, doing some heroics.
Yeah. Like, we stayed. Like,
absolutely.
We did do really bad, but that's because it was like a full team bad, like total package. But like Mouse was like let us like give a fighting chance on a lot of those. I think. And pulled some like the Kirill 101 in Vegas. Like he did an insane move in our prelims where he jumped out of the snake, bunkered the snake guy, shot another guy. Like something that's like not really in the cards in paintball. Like
for sure.
Kyle,
I agree with you 100%. To me, it's like team for team. It's like, well, who's the most clutch guy on the team?
Yeah.
I don't think it's really even a question for you guys, just with the way, because Mouse is also playing a diverse role. So sometimes he's the one, he's the two more often than he's the one. He's also in one of those troubling spots where a lot of times he's getting a read, has to make a fill. So he uses his athleticism and speed to either make a forward movement or a lateral movement. So these are all, like, every single time you have to make a decision within the framework of paintball, which is why it's hard to play the first attacker in the snake, but your game is slightly one-dimensional compared to, say, what like Ryan has to do.
Yes.
You know, so it's different. It's like if your job is, all right, dude, run, dive in the snake and get it to this spot, you know your shots, and then if there's a guy in front of you, depending on the layout, be careful, try to take him out, stay alive if you can, whatever. All of that is much more simple on paper than getting reads. Because the reads change based on everything, it's like how many guns are that way, how many bodies do we shoot, how many bodies do we have alive, and so it's like getting reads. That's why the 2 is so hard, because the second attacker, because you play the 2, but you also are the threat sometimes in the middle, like you're kind of all over the place, You've played this role.
He's
a little.
Utility. Ryan just does whatever the job needs to be.
But you've also played this role a bit too for Diesel, and so I have to give, as far as the hardest position to play in paintball, if regardless of whether things are going well or because if things are going really bad, sometimes the 3 is tough. Yeah. Because if you're staying close, you're the one digging points out. You're the Marcelo or the Alec, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit more of a different conversation. But as far as like clutch, then it just comes to performance. Like for X Factor, TJ Danner. Like TJ Danner is, meter is amazing, and there's a lot of, that roster is insane. But TJ Danner just event after event is pulling off low body situations.
Yeah, I guess when I think clutch, it's like it would probably usually it's like 2. A 2 is like what is.
But Mouse kind of plays that role a little bit.
He has both.
Yeah.
And even at this event, like a lot of like we had a conversation even before Sunday, which is I attribute to like our success is like because of how good he is, just like how Archie had that year I came back to the team.
Right.
Mouse is like a second body on the snake side. So that granted us to put 3 guys Dorito away and have like the calculated risk that if we lost one body, it was okay to have 2 on each side because we still had Mouse over there. Versus like Mouse's survivability isn't low. So we didn't have to worry if we lose Mouse and we have 3 over here. It's like we can probably count on Mouse.
Yeah.
So we can put 3 guys this way and lose 1. And still have a punch over there, and then Mouse can punch this way.
I just couldn't say that Mouse is the most clutch guy in the league because of the fact the whole team has underperformed.
For sure.
So
but
also he's had a lot of opportunities in some really difficult, because if the team's not doing well, what does that mean? That means that guys that are the last players left alive have to step up quite a bit more often than a lot of other teams that are crushing people. But yeah, the reason why I brought up TJ is that, obviously you got Legion as the first won the series title, right? And then you have X Factor as the second team overall for the year. And then we could kind of go man for man across the board, but...
Meter and J-Rab, throw them in there.
I mean, J-Rab. I mean, it's for Legion, it's got to be J-Rab. I mean, because Malloy is such a beast on the attack, and so occasionally you're going to lose his body, whether it's off the break or on moves, but J-Rab was definitely the most clutch dude for them.
For sure.
And then for Impact, that one's a little tougher. Laval's been pretty clutch because he plays a pretty diverse position. Like, I mean, there's not an event now, because he plays a lot of points. So him and Brandon Cornell basically kind of play almost every single point. Brandon's very clutch too. Mm-hmm. But Brandon's a little bit more proficient on the offense. He doesn't pull back as many of those as Nick does. It still happens,
Right.
But he's more of the bowling ball, still pulls some back, whereas Nick also plays, sometimes he's attacking in the middle. Sometimes he's the 2 on the snake side. Sometimes he'll be the 1, like I get shot and he has to be the 1. Or sometimes he's in the back center. Like, Nick's kind of everywhere. And so that's been pretty impressive to see, from him. I mean, Nick, how Nick's played is one of the reasons they've been consistent. They unfortunately haven't won a tournament in a while, but it hasn't been that long, a couple years. But a 3rd and a 2nd this year. And then for Heat, that one's a little bit tougher. Heat's going to kind of, for the most part, steamrolling through the prelims and then losing their first game on Sunday, and the games were closer in the beginning of the year than they were in the later part of the year. Heat went 1-3 at this last event. Scalp was the only team they beat, but they beat them by a lot. But then they lost to you guys by 4, you know. So maybe, you know, like, because you can make a couple different arguments for guys on Heat. You could throw. I mean, it just depends, man. Like, that's.
I mean,
kind of,
I feel like it always used to be Mishka, and then he just, you know, the Russians haven't really been performing as well as they had been, but it's Tyler.
I was going to say Tyler,
yeah.
you know, but here's the problem with Heat, right? Is that because they haven't made it deep in any Sundays, so they went 5th, 6th, 3 5ths in a row, a 6th, and a 7th. And again, only won 1 game at Cup. Last year, they didn't win a game at Cup. So it's been, you know, they finished 4th overall out of 24 if we count the teams from World Cup. But it's just been a kind of a year of like high level frustration for them because they make Sundays, but they just can't find a way to put it together on Sunday.
Right.
And that's been, you know, a lot of different. There's, you know, we could spend 2 hours talking about that. But I would have to probably say Tyler. Sam Monville's been pretty clutch for them.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Sam's been pretty clutch. Sam's alive a little bit more than Tyler is, because Tyler's a little bit more of an attacker, and Sam's pulled out some cool stuff this year.
Right.
For them. You know, typically, I mean, Fedorov is wild and occasionally has big points where he does that sort of stuff, but he's kind of typically the one attacking. Same with Connor, or, you know, Moorhead has had some clutch moments too. Actually, Ryan Moorehead's been alive as one of the last players left alive a lot. I don't know.
But he always has been in his career. Like, he was the guy.
It's just, I don't know. That's a tough team to call on that because they just, you know, they're just not making it deep on Sunday. And then for you guys, for Dynasty, I mean, it depends on the event. You know, you guys went 1st, 14th, 4th, 11th, 4th. I mean, you know, you and Marcelo have had some clutch. I mean, kind of, I could go down the list. Shear's been clutch for you guys in some certain situations. Like, Shear's been very, very consistent. He's getting to the point where he dies early. I'm like, ooh, uncharacteristic early death here from Chris Shear, because he just has spent entire events where he's the island over on the D side and doesn't die much. And then also you've been kind of playing a slightly riskier role more recently, you know, where like you're having some bigger moves sometimes, you know, where it's like you're taking a huge spot off the break, or enough to make it where it's hard to predict. Right. And then of course you can't keep clutch. We can't be discussing clutch and not talk about Marcelo, you know, like he's super clutch. Anyway, I could like go down the list.
Okay, let me ask you this then. And then I got a fun one. So kind of just pivoting off of Junior's question there about the clutch player. Who do you think is the most underrated player?
Marcelo?
Yeah, with all the hardware he's got, he's super underrated. Definitely not. Marcelo's not the most underrated player. I would have to say, you know, it's just tough because we've now seen the past 2 events with Uprising playing so well. We know how good Alec and Mark are now. I just don't know if everyone got that memo yet. And then now with Fit success.
Yeah, you might have to give it someone on Fit.
You know, well, but again, it's like, well, now it's blatantly apparent. Like, once we've seen you do super well, but they just won a tournament, so that's not, like, how do we say that anyone, you know, if we're singing your praises for an entire event and you win the event, like, how are you
You're not
underrated anymore? You have to go a little deeper, I think, into the ranks.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying that maybe, like, because maybe not everyone's got the memo on Alec. I think Alec maybe now.
Dude,
we've only
clutch, underrated. Are you going to give him the Rookie of the Year then at that point?
I just, look, you know, people come up to me sometimes and are like, Matty, say good things about me. Or, you know, this, and I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, if you're doing really well out there, I'm forced to talk about how awesome you are. You know?
I want to give a little shine also to.
And if you're doing terrible, then I have to talk about terrible.
Yeah, of course.
That's how it works, bro.
He didn't play the whole year, so we're not going to give him this full credit of accolade like that. But Julian, that played with the Brooklyn Bears.
Oh yeah,
Julian.
I coach Academy D3 at WCPL. Came from Academy D3 to Brooklyn Bears, and he played well and handled.
He
and
did. He did.
Didn't make a whole lot of mistakes.
Did he play well at a cup?
Yeah, pretty well.
Cool.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Not a lot of mistakes.
Bears went 2-2, beat Hurricanes by 5, lost to Shock by 2, beat Dynamite by 3.
Oh right, okay.
Lost to you guys, but Julian was always in the snake. More often than not, he's making the right decisions.
That's a tall order. Like,
Dude, hard, right? No, for sure. And he's
Yeah.
new, right? So a lot of guys, because they picked him up the last event, they had a terrible event the last event. But even though Mike brought him in, they kept him. Mm-hmm. Even though no Mike came in for the Bears. Julian's for sure on the list. We need to get a little bit more time.
Ice, like Bobby Kramer on our team, he was clutch for us too. Well, I guess he's like clutch as
Yeah,
well.
but more, like, again, it's like...
He's a vet, yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I'm underrated." This, like, I remember Jesse Stevens at one point in time, and I love Jesse.
He's
but he was
not,
like,
yeah,
he's
not.
like, "Oh, I'm underrated." I'm like, "Bro, you've been around for at this point, I think you've been around for half a decade, and also helped them win." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"How are you underrated, bro?"
Yeah.
Like, we need to find guys that are either slightly off the radar but are punching above their weight.
I like what Rodardi said too, Mark on Uprising. I'm with that conversation too, and even in talks for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, but Mark, with like, if you've watched any Uprising paintball for the past 2 events and you're not worried about Mark in the snake, like, he's
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he's not underrated.
okay. But
I think
he's been
underrated
the
from the
force.
scope.
He's been
Yeah.
the force multiplier in
Yeah.
the snake for them
True.
for
Good
2
point.
straight events.
Good event. Good call.
You know, so again, I'm not saying you're maybe it depends on how far back we want to take this and or how what you know because like what does that even mean? Like give me the
Right.
hardcore definition of or like the Webster's definition of underrated.
Let's look it up.
So it's everyone on Uprising, you said, Matty? Is your decision?
No, not everyone because again, a lot of those guys have been around. Like Graham Arnold is not underrated.
Yeah.
You know, like we've seen Graham and Alexander Borromeo and Olsen, and we've seen Eaton. We've seen those guys for years. Like none of those guys are underrated.
Yeah.
It's like, but Alec just got here. Mark just got here. So they're definitely in the conversation. But I, you watch all of Uprising's paintball for the past now going on a couple months, 2 full events, including the most important one with World Cup. It's like, damn, dude, like how could you be underrating these guys with what they've done? And then it's.
Yeah, not the. So the definition is not rated, or valued high enough.
Having more importance, value, skill, power, etc. than people recognize.
Should have looked at that one.
Yeah, so that's so that's kind of my point, right? Is that recognizing it, right? So it's
Right.
like, and also it's fans watching it or me watching all their games. But yeah, if you haven't played Uprising in 2 events and didn't watch all their games, maybe you are underrating Mark, But I would hope that you would watch the dude that's brutalizing everyone in the snake and is there every single point. Like they
Here we
might
go.
as well
Thanks, Bobby.
just start in there.
I'm underrated as a coach. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe like I'm going down a list here with these teams. It's like when you get to like say a Black Soap from Blast Camp who plays up the middle for them.
He plays well.
He plays really well, like that guy might be a little or La Papa. Like La Papa might be a little underrated because the team, Blast Camp's sitting with a 17th, 8th, props to them for making it 1 Sunday out of 5, 16th, 12th, 18th, right? So it's like you're looking at a team that's not really doing that well, but La Papa's really good and Soap's really good. Again, I'm not taking anything away from the rest of those guys, but you guys only made 1 Sunday. Again, I just got to speak to what it is. But La Papa had some really good looks for him at this event. I feel like both those guys are quote-unquote underrated. I think Julian is definitely underrated because he just got here too. So based on what I've seen now through mostly at the last event because they had a really rough one in Chicago.
It's funny too because as we get like too deep into this, like underrated might be also someone that we like.
We don't even
really
know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Matty knows.
But in the
Matty knows.
Matty knows.
But in the
Matty
pro
knows, and
league,
like you throw out like
we're gonna know. We're gonna know him in the pro league.
Yeah,
We'd have to
yeah.
go down to like semi-pro or something, But as far, or at least for me,
No, we're talking about pro league
Yeah, I'm just
players,
saying,
and yeah. I don't know. You might not know. Matty for sure has an idea. He watches more paintball without the title thing than anybody I think alive.
I mean, I don't know. Because we're going down deep here. The last ranked teams, right? It's like NYX had a bunch of names there because they were a top 4 team last year. We went 5th, 5th, 4th last year, and then
That's crazy.
yeah, and then just couldn't. We're talk about underperformance.
Yeah.
Massive underperformance, but they were beat up by injury. But I feel like
No,
No, they weren't beat up by injury.
Maybe they were, but that doesn't count. I was looking for
There's a common theme here.
You just
Yeah.
you just can't. Yeah, you just. I
With
just
us-
don't believe
with
it.
us,
Like
with-
I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't know how that's possible. Like you can't. You gotta like
It's leadership.
really gotta blow it, dude. You like the guys are good enough should be good enough to figure it out. It just doesn't make sense to me. You can't. It's the same thing that happened with Diesel. It just it doesn't make sense. So I guess it can happen, but it's just, I don't know. I think Sloan could like coach them and make the team win. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't matter. There's just got to be like the guys are good.
No, you have to like because
They've got
everyone,
good guys on their team. I just don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense.
Buys into just one thing, even if it's like not the best idea, it's gonna do better than everyone being spiteful and be like, well, no, my idea is better. I'm just gonna play like not buying to this game plan.
I guess so.
I
don't have the answer. I guess. Is what I
mean, I mean. I don't look. Leadership is always important, but it's the conduit between the people that are giving the mandates and the buy-in from the mandates. Mm-hmm. That link is crucial.
Sure.
Because you can have Rich has been historically a good paintball leader. I worked under Rich. He was great. I mean, he was a hard man. But he brought the best out in us, right?
Yeah.
I know Dan not super well, but I've seen him coach, and he's had a lot of success down in the divisionals.
Yeah.
Where he's getting more buy-in, because that's the thing. It's like down in the divisionals, when you're a pro rank guy or a player, because Dan did play pro back in the day, but he's getting more buy-in down there. So I think that's a longer conversation that I'm not super versed in. I mean, I've heard a little bit here and there, but it's kind of one of those things. And they did get beat up by a lot by injury. If you lose multiple starters for multiple events at the beginning of the year, and now you're sitting in last place trying to fight that uphill climb. I mean, you guys, weren't necessarily beat up by injury, but you've had to deal with that mental element of having to fight from being at a deficit. It's difficult. You guys definitely achieved that at Cup.
And then, sorry, Matty, was it you that mentioned it? It's like, once you get locked in on that bottom tier, you are absolutely screwed.
Yeah, that's bad.
Like you think when we're like, oh damn, we're in the bracket of death. Yeah. When you're one of the top 4 teams and you're complaining about the bracket of death, which I do every time. But like, imagine being where Diesel was, right? Where every time that I'm like, shit, we got Diesel. Like the first event, I'm like, that's the bracket of death because they should be doing better than they are. So imagine being NYX, who you stumble one time, and then you're like, if you're on that bottom row, you are in the bracket of death no matter what bracket you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you put a team that is supposed to be better than they are playing in that, then it's they make it, and it's a total mindfuck. So I don't know.
It totally is.
Tough, dude.
It's a tough situation. So I think it's probably a combo of that, but I just knowing a cursory knowledge of the situation there, I think that it's when they go back and do the decompress on it, that it's that combo of it. But the locker room has to buy into leadership, man. And that's a situation, and then also got beat up by injury. But I mean, but even on NYX, because they had such a bad year, and maybe people don't realize how good some of those guys are. I mean, there's maybe a couple underrated dudes on that team, and then Notorious has a couple underrated guys maybe based on how they did, but also they didn't really. It's like Notorious went 11th. And then went slightly worse after that, 18th, 19th, 15th, 16th. So it's like when we're talking about the pro league and guys that are underrated, these are dudes that I need to see something out of you. Like again, somebody had mentioned in the chat, Hugo. I mean, Hugo's a talent, but until you actually you can be as talented in the you'd be like super talented or the practice superstar, like crushing it overseas or whatever. But when you get to the tip of the spear, which is the NXL Pro League here in the States, like, well, I need to see what you have here. Mm-hmm. Again, when it's not about like I'm just calling it like I see it, right? So it's like you got to show me something here against the best of the best, and if you can prove yourself out here, well, then you're one of the best. And guys that maybe are having big so I mean, obviously he's not underrated anymore because people have recognized his talent, but like an ABJ, right?
Right.
So it's like, all right, he's playing on Notorious. Haven't done well, but he's out there getting 3-packs, 4-packs, 2-packs, like on a regular basis.
He's old news now.
Yeah.
Sorry, ABJ.
Yeah, but it's we've recognized his talent, bro. Like if you're on the team, if you're on the football team that's going like 0 for 10, but still rushing for 200 yards a game, it's like because the defense won't let it's like you're putting up 24 points, but these dudes are putting up like a shit ton more. It's like you're still rushing for 200 yards a game.
Yeah.
Or you're going 4 for 4, you're hitting 333 with like 50 jacks a year, but you're playing on a team that can't seem to win ball games. It's like, well, You know, like, anyway, so.
What do you think the struggle was with Spider Fusion?
I mean,
That was a joke.
I was going to say,
so
what
that-
wasn't the struggle,
So
bro?
that's actually I have that listed on here, and because I want to bring up the placings from Cup again, but like, dude, what are we doing with these guys? I mean, the Tauntauns, that's uncharacteristic. I think.
That was my question
like-
actually for Tauntauns, but I saw Spider Fusion on
Dude,
there, so I just thought.
Why on earth are we letting these guys come in here
Go ahead.
and just be cannon fodder? Now, I think that there is a possibility, and again, Tauntauns showed last year that they can play. But man, it's
Let me ask you this question. In your determination, who deserves to be here and who doesn't? Do you think the Europeans deserve to be here?
I mean, I guess I like. Well, here, I don't think Spider Fusion does.
Okay.
And I don't know what the qualifications, but I do believe that Europe has a much better set of player base, and then their infrastructure and their tournament series, the league, is much more well equipped with competitive teams.
Yeah.
Now the last place team out there is nowhere near the last place team down here, but same thing. Like the first place team, the Tauntauns, man, last year they could have. There is an alternate universe in which the Tauntauns won World Cup.
For sure. If they lost
They
the
beat us,
heartbreaker,
yeah.
you guys, they had a slightly different roster this year. Well, let's just kind of take it, each one of these teams. We don't have to spend the rest of the
No.
show talking about this.
I don't know if that team should be placed in the top 4 teams. The team that wins NXL Europe.
Well, just real
with
quick,
the bye, yeah.
let's just look at their performance. So we have Scalp, Dynamite, Tauntauns, and Spider Fusion. Those are the 4 teams coming in. 3 of those teams came from Europe: Dynamite, Tauntauns, and Scalp. Scalp gets a bye into the top 8, and they lose a heartbreaker to you guys by 1 point, and that was a really close game.
Yes.
And they won every single event over there in Europe. They lose every single game in the seeding rounds. They lose to Legion by 2. They lose to X Factor by just 1, and they get blown out by Houston Heat by 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then lose by 1 to you guys. So they lose every game, and they're plus minus. Even losing every game was only a plus 10, which isn't that bad.
Minus 10.
Sorry, minus
Yeah,
10.
yep.
A minus 10. And then you have Dynamite. Now, Dynamite also lost every single game they played in the prelims. They lost to Diesel by 4, Hurricanes by 2, Aftermath by 2, and the Bears by 3. -11. So...
Not blowouts.
Not blowouts. They're putting points up. They were competitive in points. They were losing some close points. But those were games that were, it was obvious the other team was better, but they were hanging in there, And then the Tauntauns, with their legendary pedigree, still only went 1-3. Lost Uprising by 3, beat Revel by 1, lost you guys by 6, Dynasty, and then lost to Blast Camp by 1. It's a frustrating situation for the Tauntauns with a pretty good roster. And then Spider Fusion, totally different scenario. -24, only put up 1 point in 4 games, but it was to damage. Still, 0-6, 0-6, 0-6, 0-6, 1-6. Every single game was a Mercy Rule loss. And we talked about this in the lead into the actual the hype for World Cup, right?
Yep.
Like our pre-World Cup show. Because we looked at how well the team had done before, and they were basically a Division 3 team, but a Division 3 team from South America.
Yes.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, dude, good luck hanging in D3 in the WCPBL or in the NXL. It's tough.
It's
bro.
tough. And you know what? I guess I do like having the European teams there. I wish that the Lucky 15s came, because I do believe that they're a very talented team.
I agree.
And the other tricky thing is, and someone called it in here, is there's no Malloy. Malloy was a big factor in the Scalps going 4-0 out there.
Arturo as well, too.
And Arturo helping them out as well. So that's one factor that you also have to take into consideration. The Tauntauns at least don't import any players. And then not sure about what Dynamite had or who they had.
They didn't have
anybody.
No mercenaries, no.
But, I mean, I like that the Europeans, again, I think the European teams have a much higher level of competition out there, and they've been doing it for long enough. There's a player base. It seems like it won't sustain top 4 teams coming over here, which I think they could do. I mean, and then there's, where are they going to grab the other teams from? It just, that invite section is just kind of a bit of a...
Well, it's kind of one of those. So from the league,
Screwy.
The mandate is all right. Well, it's the World Cup. How do we include the world into it, right? Because that was, at least the past couple years, was the mindset and the motive behind including these others. So it's like, okay, you have a European Championship, you have a South American Championship. At some point, they want to include the Asian Championship, and then they come over, and then we actually have like a real World Cup, in the sense that everyone's represented, or as many people as we can get in the paintball world that are represented. That's the motive and the mindset behind that, right? Now, they're obviously not as good because we haven't had anyone now, if at least from anywhere else other than Europe. It's unarguable that European paintball players are really good. And, look at the Tauntauns. Joy Division has been, they've come over from overseas. Obviously, Legion, though they play over here all the time, is Russia, Europe. That's been argued. Western Russia, maybe. Definitely not Eastern Russia, of course. But anyway, that's kind of one of those discussions. Who deserves to be here? Well, if you set the hierarchy of the organization up so that it's like, okay, well, if you win this, you get this, right? But at least, Spider Fusion has to come in and play out of the divisionals where they don't get that ranking in the top 8, right? Where it's like, do we not want to give the Europeans something in the World Cup? But it's a conversation.
It's tough.
I'm not saying one way or the other. That's something that it needs to be discussed. It's been discussed, and that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it. So the problem, though, is that when we do crunch the numbers, it's just anyone that comes in from anywhere.
1 out of 16 games.
Yeah. 1 out of 25, bro.
Yeah. I'm saying out of like the
you
4
mean
teams.
Like, yeah.
Between Scalp, Spider Fusion, Tauntauns, and Dynamite, there's only one game won, right?
Yeah, Tauntauns only won 1 game.
Yeah.
And that was it. Everyone else lost every other game.
But I mean, they were close games, and they were competitive, and I did enjoy watching Scout play, and I was like, okay, they're a little better than I anticipated.
They played good.
And again, I really liked watching the Luckies play last week because they're a pretty gritty, or last year because they're a gritty team, and the Tauntauns definitely showed up, and there is a road or a path in which I believe that there can be some international contenders that can do well. However, when it becomes, okay, the first place team gets to come, the second place team gets to come. Oh, the second place team doesn't want to go. Okay, well then the third place team doesn't go. They don't want to go either. Okay, well let's go to the fourth place team. Nah. And then we take the 5th and the 6th place, and then we're like, all right, cool, and the first place team from Brazil get to come. It's like, we're stretching. And there should be something, there should be a contingency in place, and I don't know what the answer is. And that's a big caveat. And maybe there's a end of season cut where Leverage and Wrecking Crew or whoever move up in the bottom 2 teams, and then they play with the top 2 teams from Europe, and if depending on who wins out of those 2 teams, they that top team gets to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, it would cannibalize a lot more of the show to have like an intricate.
I know, and we got to wrap up soon anyway because I got to hit the road.
But anything on like a positive
note?
No,
but I mean,
well, we're trying to figure that out. Like one thing that is, I think teams going up and down, based on performance, has proved to be like kind of foolproof. Like and fit is even better. Like
bring
a testament to that.
Bring back champs and challengers, bro.
I don't like that idea.
Yeah, because it's
the relegation
scary
part
for you.
It is scary.
Yeah.
Oof.
But if we're trying to entertain people,
dude, those matches are intense.
Dude, the infamous Dynasty game in the Challengers division. I mean, what did it have, like 4 million views on YouTube? It was insane. It went to like 5 101s. It was. I was like one of the. That was. I mean, I
remember when before that it was us against Heat on who was going to go down in Riverside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was when I blew my knee out.
Oh, yeah, on that rock. No.
It's the dip on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I understand the methodology of wanting the European teams in here, but also it's like, I mean, whether or not they're competitive is up to them, dude. The infrastructure of the organization is just trying to set this up so it's an international competition, and if they can't hang, then they can't hang.
Right.
Like it is what it is.
That's
kind of how it is in a lot of different sports. It's, it's like pick the sport you want to talk about, but the infrastructure, I'm not opposed to it being set up to give them a chance. It's like if they're just not as good, then they get their asses kicked.
So I mean, the question is,
that's sports. Dude,
well, I think where your standpoint, Matty, is valid. I don't know if this is where you're coming from, is what I think is like, and I have to put some thought into it, but like, does it mess up anything too with the teams that have been playing in the U.S.? I brought this up, and I don't think it matters the way the brackets came to be, but like at NYX, like if NYX has a Spider Fusion or a Dynamite in their bracket, does that... It didn't in this case. I'm just speaking hypothetically. Like, if one of those ended up in an NYX bracket where they're fighting relegation and they have a gimme win, then I think it becomes important whether to address it. It didn't work out that way. But if it starts affecting like a season for a team that has been here all year, and then a team gets brought over that's like a gimme win.
But it is tough though, because if you're Notorious Fit, Damage, or Aftermath in that Spider Fusion bracket, you have to have a big win.
Yes.
You know, like
yeah.
Again, I mean, Damage went on. They're the only team that gave up a point to them.
Right.
But it was still, well, they gave up a point. It was still a +6. Still a Mercy Roll win.
Yeah.
They almost gave up 2.
Yeah. But no, I get what you're saying. But again, it's just at the end of the day, also, it's like, hey man, like this is the World Cup. All right, world, like what do you got? You know, like it's like, which was kind of also the situation when, because the NXL didn't want to make the decision, because Tom Cole, OG paintball player, he didn't want to keep the Americans from playing overseas in Europe. He made that decision because it's like, well, how well does it do for European paintball if we allow all these American mercenaries and these other top teams to come over and they don't really have anything? They win all the time, or win most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, because some teams could hang with them. But it just wasn't like a fertile environment. Like if you want to grow crops and harvest those crops, like the ground must be fertile, you know? So this is kind of that conversation.
Sure.
It's like, are we making the ground fertile for growth in these places? Because like Spider Fusion got their asses kicked. They go back, maybe they learn some stuff. I mean, it's a very expensive practice for them to come all the way to Orlando. But that's kind of one of those, is like, do we want to exclude them just on general principle because they're not good enough? Or do we want to just say like, yeah, dude, like just be, you're here, here's the situation, you can come in, but hopefully you're good because you are coming into the lion's den with a bunch of absolute savages, and it's going to be really hard for you. Dude.
Well, and Verbal made a good point. He's like, we have the Nations Cup in Europe, which is the traditional World Cup format with all the countries. And then the other thing, to answer your question, I like having the best teams come out. I just don't like it when the best teams decide they don't want to come or they can't come.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you're just like, all right,
That's fair.
why don't we just do this? Hey, who can afford to come?
Yeah.
You get to go.
But that's the only reason Luckies came over last year. Remember, you're like, oh, I like the Luckies, but I don't think they were one of the top teams last year.
No, because I think Breakout
Breakout didn't want to go.
Didn't go both times, right?
Yeah.
So again, I there should just be something, and again, I believe that there is a path or a way that competitive teams come out of Europe, just like we saw with the Tauntauns. Just don't know if there's 4 spaces internationally to fill those voids.
Yeah, but
again,
you're looking at it from
like
you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint. Like, are they good enough to be here? Obviously not.
Right.
But that's still, that's still the situation. Is that, well, it's worldwide paintball. It's the World Cup.
Yeah.
Just because you're not good enough, like the Spider Fusion, they won the sanctioned event down there to earn the right to be here. And I do agree with you. It's like, yeah, I mean, I would like the best teams here.
But weren't they not? They weren't in it until...
But Scalp was one of the best teams. And yeah, sure, they had Malloy and they had Arturo. And then the Tauntauns had their like core roster, and it just didn't work out for any of these teams. But like you said, it's like they only won 1 game out of all of the games that were played. But okay, well then get better, guys. Like you get better. Do whatever you need to do. It is what it is, dude. If you want to come over here and play again, if you want to go in the lion's den, you need to be a lion. Like, this is just the way it is, because this is the best of the best. But I'm just not from a general principle opposed to letting other people come play in that. But I hope that you're ready. I hope you're ready for it.
I'm a little opposed of giving the team the bye.
Yeah, I don't like
that top round, and that's why I asked if you're.
Oh, we might have been. I don't think so.
Yeah, like, I don't.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? But but again, we do agree that European champions are the best, right? And look what happened. It's like you guys barely lost to Tauntaun, or barely beat Tauntauns last year. So they were this close.
They're that close.
Yeah, and so it's like the Europeans, obviously American paintball has been the best, but, European paintball has been, there's been some really, really good teams that have come out of there historically. So, like, I don't want to exclude them from the World Cup.
also want to like throw this out there, and it's hard to measure, but like look at where like European paintball was before full U.S. team started going over there, and look how it elevated them. And then maybe it's too early to tell, but look if there's a decline from full U.S. teams being not allowed to compete in European paintball. It's too early to tell. But, like, let's look at Tauntaun's last year. Way stronger performance than this year. And we're getting farther away from even when we were Golden State Kings. Mm-hmm. That was the last. We were allowed to have more than one player over there. So I think you have to compare both. Even though like they kind of get beat up on a little bit if full U.S. teams go over there, but does it also elevate them and they're getting practice? That's just like the same thing in our league when a team goes on a run, whether it's Dynasty or Impact or Damage, that doesn't go forever. The other teams get better and someone else takes over. And so there's this constant shift. And I think that also goes like for Europe and these other places too. If like we're not there to compete with them, what do they have to gauge on how they have to get better?
Yeah, but also, if the Americans, because winning a paintball tournament's big for momentum, mentally, right? So if you're spending a bunch of money on a pro paintball team from Europe, and you're getting your ass kicked by the Golden State Kings or Dynasty or Impact or something, and then like, it's tough to win. Like, or you take that second place. Is that second place enough for you to keep dumping $100,000 every year into chasing that dream? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like.
But how is that any different than our own league?
What do you mean than over here?
Yeah, I mean we still have the same situation over here with money teams.
Oh, brother, I mean, you know, in my head, to me, it's like it's paintball, dude. You either are good at it, you're the best at it, or you're not. So, you know, like anyone should be able to play anywhere. Unfortunately, the reality of again, like as a radical realist, the realist side of it is if you don't give them something to shoot for. You know, when you don't have the objectively better American teams, like, I mean, I was one of the first mercenaries to go over to Europe. Like, they brought us over in 2001 because we won the 7-man, you know, with the Ironman in 99. And then we won the World Cup and the series in 2000. So then Joy Division brought us over in 2001. And we won Brighton Beach against Avalanche and Image and, like, the other American teams with a bunch of Swedes on the team. And so I was, like, one of the first people to do that. But that was, like, one of the sparks for Joy Division, you know, like, hey, we can do this. And then all the other mercenaries came over. But it again, from a realistic standpoint, like if the Americans are objectively better at it and we don't give them their own place to play and like barricade that away, then it does steal that dream a bit.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just that's real, dude. Like that's, I don't know how we can argue against that. You know, I'm down to have that discussion, but that's the realist situation. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think that kind of that dichotomy, that the game planning there and how all of that can go down and what is the benefit and how it can grow. That's unfortunately a conversation for another time because we do have to wrap up. But yes,
you gotta get on the road here.
Camille's gonna kill me on this one.
It'll be a nice 4.5 hour drive.
Yeah, it'll be a nice 4 hour drive, 4.5, 4.
You know, 2 hour show is pretty good.
No, we're solid, dude. This is perfect.
We can go another hour and a half.
Easily.
2 hours if
we barely got into this.
We did. I know. Isn't that crazy? Like you just I cross things off as we kind of get through them, and it's just like, man, I wanted to talk about who was the most penalized player. We could get that stats some other time too. Clint Johnson.
I don't know.
But no, dude. This. I mean, obviously, it's off season, dude. You got plenty of time between negotiating player deals, raising a family, picking zucchini. We got
over zucchini.
Yeah, tripping over, breaking yourself
over.
I
didn't trip over. I just bent down to pick it up.
Slipped on
zucchinis.
It.
Slipped on the zucchini. Those are bananas.
I do have some big ass zucchinis.
I bet you do. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We've got Junior coming on next week. We've got a buddy of mine, Murph from Murph's Life Foundation, coming up before we kick off our annual charity drive. So if you still got stuff in the garage you want to donate to the kids.
Yeah, all those jerseys you brought over that one time.
I haven't sold those
yet. The box.
No, I have a new kid coming, and I need a new fence, and it did. No, I got to sell those. Sorry, unfortunately.
Fence for the kid?
So you
have to
build a fence.
I know you don't have a house yet, dog, but you have to have a fence around your house. So when it's about to fall over, then you need to put a new one up.
Mm-hmm.
So the house doesn't fall over because the fence.
I thought you meant a fence your child in inside of something.
I thought you meant like fence to hold the house up.
Fences don't hold houses up.
I know, but you said like that the house is you don't want it to fall over.
Anyway,
I don't want the fence to fall over.
So we'll have plenty of time for you to come back over anytime you want. But really good show. Thank you, Matty, for coming on.
My pleasure.
Just as a reminder, we've got that charity drive coming up. I am going to be giving away that NECTR Force as the grand prize.
This one right here?
Yeah.
I won't point it at the camera.
Don't point it at the camera, but we didn't get shut down, so didn't see it there. But I don't even know if you
maybe it recognizes it because it was that same gun.
It's a paintball gun.
Yeah, marker.
Christ, a paintball marker. What is
Okay.
the world come to?
And we'll be back next Tuesday. Again, Junior from BFPgear.com will be on. You're going to want to tune in for that one to just to see and hear what type of giveaways he has cooking up for Black Friday. So get ready for the sales. Bunch of other cool announcements. I wanted to show everybody these barrels too.
Those barrels are sick.
These are dope.
Those are super dope.
These are really cool.
Those shirts?
Yo, yeah, we got these shirts. Are they up on the website right now?
Yeah. I'll put the link
what's the website? Yeah, put the link in. So selected sizes. We don't have everybody's size because a lot of them went out in the Doghouse Dilemma.
But I will.
Link is gonna be right there.
It's a good name.
No, I get it. Yeah,
Dude, the detail on these. I don't know if you guys can pick this up on the camera,
Yeah,
but
you
it's
gotta go
insanely good.
Yeah. So, the HORMESIS portion of this is available to. On the HORMESIS website, I believe. The tip of this is actually a Dynasty Dragon Scale tip. Not available to the public. Not available to the public. But somebody's going to get one. Some people are going to be able to get this. And let's see. Should I milk this for another 3.5 minutes and just cruise in at 6:15 and be like, aha, I'm here?
We're all gonna get yelled at. Maybe not you, Kyle, but the rest.
You two guys are not going to get yelled at. But, all right, guys. Thank you very much for coming.
Great show.
Gosh.
Good combo.
We didn't do the move of the event.
Oh, we didn't.
A
we
prelim?
forgot.
Wait,
I have it-
but we
I
don't
have it.
have move of the event, right? We have prelim?
No, it's
Prelim.
prelims. Yeah. Do you want to do it now or?
I mean, I don't want to get in trouble, but I have it queued up, but the person's not knocking down the door to get paid, so we could do it next week.
We could do it next week.
We could do it next week. We can announce it next week.
Yeah.
We can have you come on via the thing. You tell me. I got it queued up, but I think
you
you
know
want
what?
to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
We got to talk about it. It's going to take way too long.
it would take us at least 10 minutes to talk about.
Like, aren't cliffhangers good to make sure that everyone comes back?
Booyah.
Cliffhanger.
See you guys next week.